Welcome everyone. Okay, we're gonna have to do a little bit of like audio check, just to make sure everybody's good and y'all can hear everything. Make sure the music's not too loud. It probably is. Or how's everything sound?
How's it sounding? Everybody think it sound good?
My volume is very low. You can't hear me? Okay, maybe it's because. Okay, let me do this. Okay, how about now? How do I sound in comparison to the music?
Can barely hear either of you.
Huh. Okay. Turning the music down. How about now? Still better. Okay, hold on.
That's better. Still quiet, I think. Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna be adjusting things as we go. This is one thing we couldn't really do yesterday. Okay. I can also raise your. There's a bunch of different places we can raise volume and stuff. So, give me a second.
Yeah. No, take your time. It's okay.
Okay. Can y'all hear Polly?
Boo, boo, boo. Can you hear me? Fuck it. You'll do it live, fetchers. Yes. We gotta do these things live sometimes.
Okay. Can you guys hear me? Oh, geez, this is bad. Still very quiet. What the hell?
Okay, let me.
On my side, you guys like I'm peaking. I'm like almost peaking, and
Yeah.
I'm in the red on my side. Okay, I'm
louder. You're louder now.
And how does Polly sound?
We better? You're louder? I think I sound louder now. Now can hear Polly a bit better, says Peach.
Okay. One more sound check.
Polly, Ventures, please.
Ooh, okay. I'm quieter than Polly. Okay. How about now? Test.
We better now?
Yeah, I have no idea.
Thanks,
just
Caro. I always sound great.
I'm just like looking, and it's like I'm like freaking out about this, about where the like volume meter is on the audio mixer.
Yeah, no worries. I think KJ, you can go louder. Yeah, I can hear the stream.
How about now? Am I too loud? Am I loud enough? Am I quiet still?
I think you can go a little bit louder.
Better? Okay, word. That's good. That is good. Okay. Welcome everybody to the first official episode of we decided on the name Turnbased Tangents. Shout out to Elise and Peach. I am KJ, for those of you that don't know me. And Polly, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Polly Mune. Yeah, I'm also RPG streamer like KJ, and KJ's very best friend in the whole world.
Polly is great. Yeah,
I'm so happy that we're doing this, and yeah, thanks to Peach and Elise for helping us with the name yesterday on KJ's Saturday morning stream.
Yeah, so it's funny how this all kind of came about, because we were talking and we were like, we kind of want to do some kind of a collab, and then Polly had visited for PAX East, and we were like, you know what? Why don't we do a podcast? Like, we started talking about some games, and just the way that sort of we both approach critiquing games is very different. I will say Polly's way of looking at things is much more from like the design aspect of things and like the more the creative things, and I'm just much more fly by the hip, like, this, I don't like the way this looks or feels. So it'll be really interesting. Like,
yeah, I'm very excited. Yeah, Peach says we could go a little bit louder.
Okay, I'm like as loud as I can be right now. This is actually as loud as I can put myself. So, I hope that's good.
I think it'll be okay as long as people have the volume up.
Yeah, I think we should be fine. I'm like peaking, like the mixer, and like I guess I could adjust my microphone a little bit. Why is it all of my settings are the same. All of my settings are the same from when I stream normally. So that's
It just
really
wants to
weird.
be difficult because we're starting something new, and you can't ever start something new without a little bit of turbulence.
I also wonder if it's because of the is it the music that's drowning me out or drowning us out?
No, I don't really hear the music. Wait, hang on. Yeah, the music's low, so you're good.
Yeah, the music should be super low.
Yeah.
There's music yes, there is music playing. I'm turning it up now. Yeah, there should be. I have the Final Fantasy VII OST playing. But yeah, I'm really surprised that I am so low, considering all things considered. Like I was using the exact same settings as I was for a normal stream, but it's okay. We'll figure it out. It probably means on my next stream I'll have to adjust audio again because I'll probably be super loud.
It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, it'll be okay. So yeah, now the music is too loud. Okay, well, yeah, Sparrow. I have the Go XLR mixer, so I could. That's the only place that I haven't really tried to adjust things. Oh, I just opened the wrong thing. Okay, scuffed first stream. My apologies, y'all.
It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, the only other thing I can do is in here.
Get to start it. Get to start it off. Or get adjustments to best we can, and then
test. Okay. How do I sound now? Hopefully I sound a little bit better. Maybe I'm a little too loud. No, Peach, this is good. This is good. Yeah, shout out to Polly for this. This layout is dope. This layout is super dope. How do I sound now? Much better?
Thanks,
okay, cool. I adjusted the gain on the Go XLR portion of things. It's driving me nuts that I'm like peaking though. How about now? Am I still good? Hopefully I am still good.
Maybe you're just a very soft-spoken talker.
Right. No one has ever said that about me in my life. Good on my end? Hell yeah. Okay, perfect.
All right. Thank you, Sparrow and Peach, for helping us troubleshoot this.
Yes.
Appreciate it. It's clear for me, says Raven.
Raven,
hello,
welcome in.
Raven.
Yeah, awesome. Also, by the way, for everybody, I do have all like alerts and stuff off. We are going to be like editing this a little bit and maybe posting it somewhere or something. So I appreciate everybody, or we appreciate everybody, I should say, for coming through. We have a handful of topics. I'm so worried that I am going to get canceled after this stream. So, Polly, do you want to start us off?
KJ's like, please, I don't want to start off being canceled immediately.
That's exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah. So today's topic is more of a back and forth chatting. And so leave a Q&A section for after for interaction. Hey, I like that. I like that, Enno.
Wow, Venters.
Because ready to roast you. Oh my goodness.
Oh yeah, it's gonna happen.
Yeah. So today, going on forward with the podcast, we will be doing like kind of like a video game book club, and we're starting with Grandia 1, and our first stream with that is on the 24th of July. But today we're actually going to be talking about like current current events of where Square Enix has announced a bunch of titles, and we're going to kind of talk about that. And essentially like just talking about their upcoming titles, what are our thoughts of things. A lot of them are Final Fantasy VII related. KJ's about to roll his eyes, and then we're gonna kind of go through that. So there's like Final Fantasy 16, and there's a few Square Canes going to be coming up, and so that's what we're starting off the podcast talking about, that because it's a good topic to have where he and I can have back and forth, because we have very different views on some of these and different angles that we're looking at it from. So I think that would be really fun, and then it'll also allow you guys in chat as well to kind of kind of chat along with us, and then every now and then we'll like turn and bring you kind of into the experience of the podcast and the upcoming events. So I'm very excited about doing this with KJ, because it's so funny that him and I are very similar on a lot of things, but we differ on a lot of like topics and stuff like that too, especially RPG games, especially in the Final Fantasy category. Specifically 7.
I don't know. I think if we talked about Final Fantasy 6, we would have some differing opinions too. I don't know if we want to broach that topic though, because that might. I don't want you to feel like I'm attacking one of your favorite games ever. We could definitely have that conversation at some point. Because I started to. So a few different people have like finished Final Fantasy 6 recently, and I've talked to a few of them, and I realized that even though I really enjoy Final Fantasy VI, I do have some strong opinions about things that I think they just missed on. But that's a topic. Those are topics for another day.
yeah. And today we're specifically talking because Square Enix has dropped a lot of announcements this year already. A lot of games they've talked about, a lot of like videos they've posted into the community of the various games. So it's going to be really interesting to talk about that. And KJ and I very much differ wildly on the Final Fantasy VII franchise, which is kind of fun. And then even for like the upcoming Final Fantasy 16 or that sort of stuff, we might align with the Star Ocean and Valkyrie profile thing. We might not. Who knows? But it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun times.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Okay, so yeah, I think the first thing we were gonna talk about was, I think it's being referred to as Rebirth, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth remake part 2.
Yeah, because it's no more, right?
Yeah, exactly.
we're gonna have fun titles now.
Yep, of course. So yeah, what are your thoughts? I'll bite my tongue for a minute.
KJ's gonna try to not interrupt. This is gonna be interesting because he's gonna hate my opinion. But yeah, I was really excited for the announcement of Rebirth, mainly because I've been kind of like, where's my Final Fantasy VII Part 2? Where's my Final Fantasy VII Part 2? And like, come on. But I understand also with like COVID and stuff like that, things have been like super delayed, and they're also because Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 1 ended with like the Midgar sort of sequence, and then Part 2 is like going to be more like basically in the overworld. So I understand it would have taken them a long time to like figure that out and those mechanics out and stuff. But yeah, when that trailer dropped, even though it was such a tease because it's very little bits, but there's certain lines that are from the original Final Fantasy VII game in that trailer, and that got me really squeeing because it makes me feel like they're still going to keep going with the choices you can make, and sort of like that sort of thing. But I'm very excited about it. I really like the remake. I like that it's not a carbon copy. And I have some theories about why it's called Rebirth. And we'll see after Part 2 if I still say these words, because I'm like, I could go either way in a direction where like I really like the new angle it's going, or I really don't like the new angle it's going in. But yeah, I'm excited for it. I'm excited for it. And I recognized some of the lines directly from the original Final Fantasy VII game, so I like that they're still kind of pulling those pieces together. And I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued because the way the remake ended off, as anybody who's played the remake, spoilers. We might talk about spoilers in this a lot, by the way. But with the way the remake ended off, it alluded to a certain fan favorite character maybe not necessarily being gone. And so with Rebirth, I'm like feeling like it's connecting that a little bit more. And my first impressions is that I'm really, really excited about it. It's got the bits and pieces pulling in from Final Fantasy VII that I enjoy, but it's also kind of like branching off. So it's not like a carbon copy of the game, which I'm very, very intrigued about. And trying to guess what part 3 is going to be called is very, very fun, because I've had some really hilarious replies to like tweets about that. And we've got like Rebound, we've gotten like Resurgence, Rewind. There's just so many really funny things, and I'm like, oh my god, people.
I have a feeling they're going to rewrite a bunch of things from the original game, and it's really going to be rejected. That's my guess. People are going to hate it. That's my...
So, KJ, with that said, what are your first impressions?
Oh my goodness. Okay, so I want to go on record here saying I really enjoyed 7R Part 1. I've multiple times I've said, like, I really hate the fact that they sort of put it on multiple consoles. I think if they really, like, the PS5 came out 6 or 7 months after 7R came out. I really wish they would have just pushed that back, like pushed the release date back and just made it a PS5 release. That would have been great. So those things aside, and the fact that I'm still a little frustrated that they're like milking Final Fantasy VII 25 years later. I think Rebirth looked good, right? I think the teasers, they definitely looked good. What I don't like is the fact that they called it remake, and then now it seems like what they're doing is they have this like reimagination of what they want to do, but it's not really a remake. And people were saying in chat, like, end of disc 1 and stuff like that, and Ventures alluded to, like, spoiler at the temple. I think that the reason it's called Rebirth is because they're about to rewrite the most iconic thing in all of Final Fantasy. Like, everyone knows, if you even like people that know Final Fantasy and are like probably in the gaming realm, know Final Fantasy but have never played it, still know the iconic scene. Like, they've seen it. Like, everybody, even people that haven't played the game, like I said, know about that scene. And so I think that them calling this Rebirth is about to rewrite something that I just don't think they should touch. I really don't. And I think that's going to be something like that is my biggest sort of worry about part 2. And on top of that, I don't know about the pacing. I don't know about the pacing of this game being 3 parts. I think even though it's 3 parts, I can see multiple not RPG, multiple DLCs. Like, they've already done one, and I think the biggest thing about the DLCs is, so in the original Final Fantasy VII, there were 2 optional characters, and they were characters that were originally supposed to be in the game, got removed, and then got added in as optional characters. They've already done a DLC with one of them. So I think what's going to end up happening is they're probably going to make a DLC around the other one. And they also have all of the stuff that happens in, like, Dirge of Cerberus and whatnot. And they've already kind of tied some of that in and, like, kind of given you, like, they've given you little breadcrumbs and stuff like that in the game that alludes to things from Dirge as well. So I think that's the route that they're going. So it doesn't really feel like 3 parts to me. It feels like they're kind of milking it for more.
Yeah.
That's sort of my
I'm
thinking.
worried about that too. That's where we align. So on this subject is that I'm worried that if they're just going to do a bunch of like DLC parts where they've separated, like I thought it was really neat that they expanded more on the remake with like the Midgar sequence. I'm glad that they put a little bit more oomph in that, because I felt like it went by too fast in the original and you didn't really get to connect with any of the other side characters, you know what I mean? So I found like their whole like connection and them being a little bit more in the plot line and stuff brought you into those characters a little bit more. So I was happy that they did that. And then when they announced that it's still only going to be 3 parts, I'm like, oh good, they might cut out all that like nonsense. Like the third disc is very much just, let's just go play all the mini
Yeah, it's like
adventures
play the
of
mini
Final Fantasy
games,
VII.
beat the optional bosses, like do all the stuff
Exactly.
that
Where
extra
I feel
stuff.
like that to being it's basically all a disc to itself is just a little unnecessary. So the way
Mhm.
they're spreading it out is great. But yeah, I'm really concerned about the DLC stuff because you're right. They have with the Yuffie DLC, they've tied in, which I haven't played it yet, but I know the general consensus of it. They're tying in Dirge of Cerberus with that. And so are they going to keep doing things like that going forward, or was that just a to give the community something to wait a little bit longer for part two because part two is taking longer because of the pandemic. So I'm kind of hoping that's all that DLC was, because now they're including it. Like, for example, if you buy it on Steam, you get the DLC included. Like, it's not a separate thing when you
Mhm.
get integrate on Steam and stuff. So I'm really hoping that they don't go around that, because that's going to make me feel a little bit like you're already doing a lot of Final Fantasy VII content, which we will talk about the other Final Fantasy VII stuff coming up. But like, you're already doing so much with this franchise. Please don't go that route. Like, you're already going to make a buttload of money. Like, I'm going to get a collector's edition at some point of one of the parts, probably. But like, please don't please don't like do all this freaking DLC stuff. And Kane made a really good point, which I kind of align with. I also think it was a little less of Square Enix like throwing it on the PS4 console and spreading it out that way, and a little bit more of like, hey, we want money and we want things to be, and the PS5 is going to be very difficult to get for a while. I think people predicted that happening, and so in my point of view, I'm glad it came out on the PS4 first because I got to play it. Because I don't have a PS5 and I still don't, and it's still a little bit of difficult even right now
Mhm.
to get one, and it's also extremely expensive, right? So I'm partly glad that, but I'm also glad that now they're like, okay, the rest is going to be on PS5, like everything's going to be there, and I'm like, okay, because that opens up the door of like later on they'll do like a compilation package and probably like a special edition where they're putting all three games together and like handing it to you in a nice little package and stuff, because that's the collector thing that I would get, as long as like Rebirth goes in a direction that I appreciate. But yeah, you're right, that iconic scene, if they change that, I'll be upset. I think Rebirth alludes to somebody else, though. I don't think it's going to be that, but it could be, and that's where I'm like,
I think
I'm
it ties to
cautiously
both.
optimistic.
I think it ties to both. I really do. Because those two
Yeah.
characters are so closely tied together too. Like, that's the thing. Those two
Yeah.
characters are closely tied together. So I think like saying Rebirth is like almost saying like their story arc is being reborn, right? That's kind of my thinking. And yeah, I think that's and yes, okay. So something was brought up in the chat that actually is a massive like problem of mine with Square as a whole. Is Square Enix, this is not the
13.
first time Square Enix has done this, right? Like this whole multi-part games, like things broken up. So I get it, like return, they want investment, like investors want a return on their investment. But there's two arguments here, right? So one is I think that if you're going to release it, you have to release it on the PS4. If you're going to release part 1 on the PS4, then you have to release DLC on the PS4 as well. That's honestly like, I don't like, personally, I wish they would have waited and just made it a PS5 title. But if they were going to release it, then they should have released it as DLC on the PS4 and the PS5. That is my
that's a good point.
That's kind of my thinking there. The second
That's a really
piece
good
of
point,
that,
because I still haven't gotten to play the Yuffie DLC because
Exactly.
it's not on PS4.
exactly, and like now they're releasing. I mean, this game came out April of 2020, so now there are people that still haven't touched the DLC more than 2 years later. And it's like now that they're opening things up and like putting it on the opening things up and putting it on PC, like now people will be able to play it. But still, you're talking about 2 years later. Next year, we are closer to Rebirth coming out than we are like it's like we're 2 years out from when the OG or original 7R came out, and then now we're only 1 year away from Rebirth coming out. So I think that they could have just put the game out on the PS4. If it's DLC, fine. It's DLC. If I'm thinking DLC, I'm thinking, okay, this is DLC for part 1. If you're gonna put part 2 out on the PS5, then I'm all like that. It doesn't feel great, like, but that's more along the lines of what they did with Kingdom Hearts. So I don't feel as bad because at least you're putting a complete game out on the PS5 as opposed to saying, hey, I have this 6-hour DLC that I'm gonna put out on the PS5, and that's what I'm gonna make you buy the PS5 in order to continue on with that.
Yeah, exactly. And like, one thing that worries me, and this has always concerned me when Square does multiple titles under the same franchise, is that how are they connecting the two? So like, one thing I really like, and I'm going to talk about a series really briefly that I really enjoy, that the way they did is the Dot Hack series, where they had each part where you loaded in the save file and you continued on. But with Remake Part 1, you got to like level, I think max level was 50. And so are we just continuing from level 50, or are we back to level like 1 and we're doing it kind of from scratch again? Will you be able to import your save file from the previous game? How is that going to work if you did it all on the PS4 and it's now on the PS5? Things like that. So like, yeah, when you talk about how they probably shouldn't have released it partly on 4 and then exclusively now on PS5. Well, not exclusive. I mean, it's going to be on PC and other things too. But like going forward, it's going to be on the PS5. That disconnect right there between Remake and Rebirth worries me because I like how the Dot Hack series did it, but I don't like how the Final Fantasy 13 trilogy did it, where they felt like 3 very separate games. If you play them all together, I see all the connections now if you play them all in order. And I did benefit from doing that because I played them very far apart from each other. So when you play them close together, it's like, but you don't, like, you're not loading in your save file. You're not even playing the same character in the second game. And so while Final Fantasy VII won't have that issue because you're obviously still going to be playing Cloud and Barrett and the crew and stuff, my problem is that are we starting at level 50? Are we starting at level 1? Are we going to break the 99 level cap? Because if they start at level 50, they got 2 more games to go.
Sure.
So like, how are these two going to connect? And also like, how is this going to like streamline? And then, yeah, if they're going to do even DLC on top of that, are you going to be able to load in those, say, like level ups and or levels and material?
I didn't even think about that because, yeah, the way that they did the DLC, it's all Yuffie. So like,
exactly. So they didn't have to worry about
how are they going to integrate Yuffie into the party if it's like, hey, I have these 2 saves. Now I have to load in the 2 saves. Like, yeah, that's
yeah. See, that's where I'm losing. They're losing that connect where they like. I'm worried that they're not going to maximize on that, which would have been really cool. Is that in part 2 we're gonna get Yuffie now. So like, could you load in that save file and then she's the level you were at the end of the DLC? That would be cool. And then if you're starting off Rebirth and you load in the level from Remake, you're starting off whatever level you got to in the Remake. That would also be cool. And that would tie everything together. I'm afraid that they're not going to do that, which is like a missed opportunity in my opinion, and going to make us start back lower levels.
So I think it's definitely possible because what Eyes on B in chat said was that because it's all
on the PS Cloud,
PlayStation Cloud, they can like loading in the saves will work, but I think because of the pacing and like everything, I don't know that it'll be. I don't know. I think it's gonna be. I don't think it's gonna be like a full transfer. Yeah, Chris, exactly. Like Chris was saying, he doesn't think it's gonna be a full transfer. You might get like some there might be some like small things, there might be some Easter eggs and stuff like that, like that you would get for that. But I don't think that we're gonna actually get sort of the consistent level.
Where I think like maybe part 2 and part 3 they'll do that. But yeah, I feel like similar to what Chris is saying, it's similar to what you're saying. I feel like they're not going to utilize that like importing your actual level. You're probably going to start at a lower level. You're just going to get some goodies, which is what they did with Final Fantasy 13 as well, right? So you could load in your save file, but you just got some extras. It wasn't like you were loading in your actual levels or anything like that.
Yeah, which is when bringing that up, like, I don't know. I think either way they do that, I think they can kind of make it work. But overall, I'm a little worried. I am skeptical.
I'm hoping, like, somebody in chat mentioned something that also I thought was going on, because we both know Tien, and Tien and I have had a discussion about it, and the Reese could also be in conjunction with Sephiroth himself, which I think would be really, really cool if all the titles alluded to the different degrees of, like, Sephiroth, which I thought that might be really neat, so that it wouldn't actually be ruining some of, like, the core canon stuff that we want to happen, because it's, like, the big plot stuff that kind of needs to happen for the plot line to kind of align and have those powerful moments. Because let's just be real, if those scenes happen again, I'm just gonna cry at both of them again. Like, let's just be real. Like, no, I'm gonna be a weeping mess.
Let's be honest.
I'm incoherent and just okay. Stream's over.
No, let's be honest. They're turning the two characters that are going to be reborn into comic book characters. They're gonna have, like, it's just gonna be like, oh, they're just gonna come back to life. That's all. It's gonna be like. Yeah, that's basically Square's taking a page off of, like, take a page out of Marvel's book, and they're going to be like, oh, we're going to bring these characters back, because why not?
No, I wanted to be alluding to Sephiroth himself, because, like, remake is like, okay, yeah, he's trying to re-envision things, and it's weird because, like, I feel like he's also kind of like, all right, like, can we do this differently? And then Rebirth, I mean, it does technically allude to a portion of the second disc that does happen. With Sephiroth's too, so I'm cautiously hopeful that they're not gonna ruin my two characters who canonly have issues occur that very much shape what Final Fantasy VII is as a whole, and why it's so powerful of a game, because it has these things happen. And I'm just like, yeah, but at the same time, I'm on the same little bit with you, KJ, where it's just like, they might, and then how are they going to do it? I think it's still do it, that's just later on, and it's just going to be weird. I don't know. I don't know. It's like, oh, so that's why I switched to, like, cautiously optimistic. we're cautiously optimistic, and I am so sorry, Zach fans. I love most of the voices that they've been picking.
We're getting into the segue. Okay, I like it.
Yeah, we're getting into a bit of a segue, but, like, yeah, I feel like a lot of people are going to be mad at me because I'm not a fan of Zach's voice. But anyway, yeah. So continuing on with the Rebirth thing. If they utilize the PS Cloud and they utilize the saves and you transfer in, maybe a direct level for level, but, like, give me, like, half of those levels or something like that, and then give me like some of the things that I got, like the summons that you could do, and, like, let me upload those, like the leveling of the weapons, going forward I have those weapons, because I mean there's going to be a bunch more weapons, right? Yeah. So, like, it's one thing they could give these little things to us, and maybe not the levels match for match, because starting at level 50 might be a little bit chaotic for part 2, but unless they make everything harder, and see, that's what the Dot Hack series did too, is that if you didn't upload, everything was, like, starting from level 30. And all your missions were level 30, and you're like, and if you're starting at level 1, and you have to think, so it very much encouraged you to play all 4 parts and in order, otherwise you were gonna be severely underleveled for certain segments.
If the levels don't translate in, like, any way, it's gonna feel like a broken adventure to me.
Yeah, so I think if they would just give us half, like, cut it in half, let us start around level 20, 25, let us upload, like, what we did with our weapons, let us upload what we did with our materia, all that sort of stuff. and then start the game off with that as kind of a reward for playing the remake part 1 and utilize the PS Cloud. And then with Yuffie, the levels and stuff like that you gained with her, you can also, if you did the DLC as kind of like a, hey, you played the DLC, here's another little bit that now Yuffie is not like level 1.
Yeah, she probably, it'd be cool if they like was just like, okay, she comes in as an average of the levels of the characters that you have, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Whereas if you played the DLC, she'll do that. If not, she's like lower level, so it will take you a lot longer to like level her up and grind. That would be really, really cool. But I am slightly concerned they're not going to utilize that. And they're just going to be like, we got part 2, and you start at this random level with these random things that were not even relevant to what you got in the remake. And I'm like, but my grinding, but my Bahamut. I was so happy I got it. Yeah,
it'll be interesting. I do think that I don't know. I'm gonna watch somebody play the game. I am not going to go out of my way to get this game. I'm a fortunate person that has a PS5, but I will not be going out of my way to get this. I'll be tuning in and figure it out from there.
Watch somebody play it a bit, and then if it's like, okay, they're doing things the thing, I will then get it. That's a good idea. That's the beauty of being in a streaming platform with lots of lovelies who will probably play it. Me. Day one.
Yeah, I'll just wait for it to. I'll watch somebody play it and then wait to get it super cheap, and then I'll play it off stream. So I'm not.
What you do is you just wait till the collector's package comes out, because you know it's coming, where they're gonna release the 3 games in like some collector's thing, and then KJ would be like, you know what? I'm gonna get the fancy collector's thing and have like Sephiroth on a bike. I don't know.
I have zero desire to get that. The only reason why I have the 7R like deluxe package or whatever. The only reason why I have
art.
What's up?
Because of Amano's art?
No, not even. I haven't opened it. It's sealed. I got it because it was like at a good price, and I was like, oh, this will go up in value because everyone loves Final Fantasy VII. I'll sell this. Like, it's probably the only thing in my collection that I have the mindset of, I'll sell this at some point. Like, legitimately.
Yeah, and that's fair. I got the deluxe edition because one, you got like a little extras, but also because I really like collecting the steelbooks. I think they're pretty.
No, I mean, steelbooks are dope.
But like when they released the collector's edition, I was just like, Cloud on a motorcycle. Looks over at my figurines over here, and Cloud on a motorcycle. Like, I've already have that. So like, I'm also waiting to see if they do something different with like the figurines in the collector's edition. Like, give me Sephiroth, like just crazy cool looking or something that's unique than the figurines that I've had before, because I've been collecting figurines for a while.
The way that Square's going, it's gonna be Sephiroth with no shirt on, just standing there. Like, that's what's gonna happen. That's the way that they're going. That's what it's gonna
just doing the hands on his.
Yeah, they're gonna lean into as much fan service as they can. Okay. I think we should move on to the next topic, especially because this one I won't get canceled for. It's great. I'm actually really excited for this next thing.
Yeah. You wanna lead us into the next topic?
Yeah, sure. So the second thing that they announced, or the second topic that we're going to cover, is another Final Fantasy VII topic that was announced, and it's actually it's the remaster, remake, whatever they're calling it, of Crisis Core. So
Reunion.
Yeah, Crisis Core Reunion. I don't care about the names. It's a remake. But it seems like it's going to be 1-to-1. So fingers crossed. And the reason I say fingers crossed there is because I think for game preservation's sake, like, they needed to make a 1-to-1 sort of like remaster of Crisis Core, because this game is only available on the PSP, which, I mean, is a great console, but I mean, the PSP is like 15 plus years old.
Yeah.
People, and it's not like people can really play this. Like, everyone that I know that's played it in like the last few years has had to emulate it. And so it's just like, I mean, as a game collector, I feel like game preservation is huge. So
Yes.
them sort of remaking this and putting Crisis Core back on the map is great. Personally, Crisis Core is, in my opinion, the best Final Fantasy VII game of like the original, like OG7, Dirge, Crisis Core. Like of that, Crisis Core is my favorite game of them them all. Yeah. So I really hope it's going to be faithful to the original. I think like there's going to be little things like that they change, like Zach's voice and stuff like that. But the gameplay that they showed looked a lot like 7R, but tied to the Crisis Core like slots that you have, which are very, very RNG heavy. And I know anybody that's played Crisis Core is going to be like, oh my goodness. And somebody in the chat brought up Chris. He brought up that Crisis Core, he said, doesn't hold up well in his opinion. For what it is being a PSP game, I thought it did hold up fairly well. Like, but it is a PSP game. It's really clunky if you're playing it on PC. Like, if you're actually playing it on the PSP, I feel like it's actually not as bad as as people make it out to be. But again, like, it's a PSP game. It's tough. And I think one of the comparisons that I make is playing Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep on the PSP to then playing Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep remastered on the PS4 is like night and day. Like, they were able to really make the game feel fluid and feel great. And I think they'll be able to do that with Crisis Core here. So I'm very, very excited about that. And yeah, everybody in chat is just mentioning like the PSP like didn't sell well. Like, was kind of tough.
It was hard to get a copy of that game, and like it's the same. Like, for example, like I was telling you, like Star Ocean 2 Second Evolution. Like, I like the addition stuff that they put into it and the additional anime cutscenes. But again, it was only on the PSP. And so the PSP had like a lot of these great titles and stuff like that, or like remakes or remasters of games that I love, but they didn't even translate those to like the PlayStation Vita or like, you know, continuing them then. So you're absolutely right. And hearing Birth by Sleep is better on PS4 makes me really excited to replay it. But like, yeah, with the Crisis Core system is like I had similar issues with like that Chris is mentioning in chat, is like that the combat was slow, it was very heavily RNG, but now it looks like they're like tweaking those things and making it a little bit more fluid. And so I'm excited to actually, because I haven't beaten Crisis Core. I kept getting stuck about like a little over halfway through the game because of the battle system and stuff. So I got stuck, and then so I haven't actually watched that like really iconic cutscene that everybody just destroys everybody. I know what happens because I've played Final Fantasy VII, but that cutscene apparently is really powerful. So I'm really excited that they're remastering or remaking portions of Crisis Core. And it looks, you're right, it looks like it is faithful to the original Crisis Core. And while I think they might have like a post-credits thing tying it into the remake, I don't think it will interfere with the overall game, which is great. So it'll be kind of continuing on in that sort of avenue. But one thing that was a bit of a bummer, and I'm probably going to get yelled at for it, I was not immediately connected to Zach's voice, and I prefer his voice from the original Crisis Core. It'd be really cool if we could like but they're not going to do that, right? So Square is going around and like redoing the voices and stuff, which I've noticed with like the remake and everything. Like, they're recasting pretty well a good chunk of them, if not all. And so it made sense that they would do that with Crisis Core. And it does look like they've taken Aerith's voice actress from the remake, I think, and put her in the Crisis. She sounded the same from the remake, so I'm assuming it's the same voice actress. I didn't look it up though, so correct me if I'm wrong there. But I'm the same way. Like, I prefer Zach's old voice. I feel like he's a little maybe a little, I don't don't know. I wasn't jiving with it, but hey, maybe I'll get used to it. It'll be fine. But I mean, I got used to like all the other voice changes and stuff, and I really like them. Like I like Tifa's new voice. I like Eris. I actually like Clouds. I thought he did a really good job, and all that sort of stuff. So like I'm intrigued by the Crisis Core like voices and stuff, and it'd be really cool if they pulled a lot of the like remake voices, like Sephiroth from the remake to Crisis Core, like connecting the voices. But my poor boy Zach, we love Zach, and he's such like a powerful main character, and like I realize why a lot of people like him over Cloud. I still like my sad boy and my tortured tormented boy, but like Zach was just a really fun character to play, and very like trying to be glass half full kind of guy, which I can respect. But I just wasn't getting that feeling from his new voice. So I'm like, that's my only thing when I watched that trailer, where I'm like, I'm probably going to get a lot of people yelling at me for it, but like I was not connected immediately. But like,
it's funny because like that's something. So this is a perfect example where I'm just like, as long as the dialogue and like the feel of the character is the same, I don't necessarily mind that they sound different. And I guess I didn't pick up that it was a drastic enough change.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Personally, like I guess I don't know. I again, like that doesn't bother me as much. And I think it's also because like, I mean, if I was watching a show and they changed the character, like I can see that person, right? So they look different, but like them sounding a little different, I guess isn't bothering me as much.
Yeah, and like I feel like they're gonna have more of his voice in Rebirth, so I'll get it a little bit more there. And we're gonna be getting Crisis Core before Rebirth, so we get Crisis Core at the end of this year. And so even though it's on my backlog, it might eventually get moved at some point so that I play the new one, because I think it'll be a little bit better pacing and everything for me too. So I'm sure I'll warm up to it, because Zach is just a really okay, I'm going to go a little thing. I know KJ's going to agree, because we both at least agree on this. Zach is just a really great main character.
Oh, yeah, he's a better main character than Cloud. I'll go out and...
No, that's not what I'm saying. You leave my tortured boy alone.
It's just, okay, here's the thing. When you're playing Crisis Core...
They're two different kinds of main characters, and I like that they're opposites because of what transpires in Final Fantasy VII and why Cloud is the way he is. Makes sense, because he's kind of like broken-minded and stuff like that. And also kind of, for me, also, I connect with Cloud because he overcomes like trauma and overcomes that sort of stuff. So like, I find him very like uplifting and being like, look at this guy who like goes through literal hell multiple times and like brain damage and all these things, and still manages like to piece things back eventually and come together as a whole person. And then his personality shines a little bit through where he's not actually like a thing. So I like those bits. And so, but with Zach, it's like the opposite of why I love him. I love Zach because he's like energetic. He reminds me kind of like Zidane and Final Fantasy IX and stuff, where they're more of a glass half full kind of person. They're always trying to just be a hero, be like be the person that saves everybody,
do the right
and,
thing, kind of like
Zack and Zidane have very similar qualities in that regard, and that's what I liked about Zidane in Final Fantasy IX. So like Zack, I was immediately like, when they did Crisis Core and you got more of his personality, I was like, ooh, because you only get bits of it in Final Fantasy VII, so I was like, okay, yeah, okay. But like when you play Crisis Core and you get that personality, you're like, okay, Zach is a lot of fun, and he's just a sweet boy, and he's trying to be a hero, and it's just really, like, yeah. So I understand a lot of people like love Zach more than Cloud, and that's totally fair, because Zach comes from right out of the gate as himself, as his own personality and stuff. Cloud has to go overcome a lot of like brain and Mako issues and like issues and stuff like that to be finally to himself. So like a lot of people don't like maybe connect with main characters that way either, but I love both, and I will die on the hill that I love both of them equally, and I can't pick between either one. So I'm just like, I love Cloud and Zach. They're just sweet boys, and I love them.
Yeah, for me, it's just like it's just the feel and pacing of the game and like the adventure as a whole. Like if I'm talking about, so all of my opinions, like between Zack and Cloud come from 7 to Crisis Core. Like those are like, yeah, I agree with you, Chris. Advent Children did ruin established. Yes, I will totally agree with you.
I was trying not to talk about Advent
for me,
Children.
I kind of want to just throw Advent Children in the trash. Like,
we don't talk it or Dirge Cerberus. The worst of so Advent Children, I did kind of like the story, but I just didn't like what they did to a lot of the characters, especially like what they did with Tifa, what they did with Cloud. Like I feel like they just, well, yeah, they went through some shit and stuff like that, and like that sort of thing. Like Tifa is like kind of a little bit clingy and stuff too, which is not her character as a whole, for example, like and stuff. So I'm just like, and then like the little kids and stuff, I don't know. Advent Children was like, it was pretty. It was pretty, it was fancy. And then Dirge of Cerberus, we just don't talk about the gameplay. The story was good, and I very much like the story and how it like all kind of like goes in a little bit of a circle and stuff. But yeah, we don't talk. I was trying not to talk about. And I know a lot of people establish Cloud and hate Cloud because of Advent Children, and I was like, no, but in Final Fantasy VII, in the original, you start to see his personality, bits and pieces all the way throughout, and then when he pieces everything back together, you see like Cloud is also optimistic, and Cloud is also a glass half full, and he's doing his best to also be a hero, and he, you know, like he has these same qualities of Zack, only kind of in his own way. And so like, I feel like Advent Children did my boy dirty. and made him especially think like, but it went back to the trauma, you know what I mean? It went backwards. He had gone through this trauma and pieced his life back together, and then they went back with the trauma because somebody important to him was gone. So like, and I'm going, oh, but my boy just overcame the last game. Why do we have to go through this again? And it was in the movie, it was the same conclusion that he's overcoming it again. And I'm just like, I've done this once. So that's where I disconnected with Advent Children, because they basically just did the same thing around, only they made him a little bit more depressed and a little bit more like, I don't want to be around people. Whereas even when he was like, he wasn't sure and he was unsure of himself and he was sure he had it, but the memories were all clouded, he was still like optimistically going forward. Whereas in Advent Children, it's like he wanted to stay isolated and stay in the same spot.
But I also question, so here's where I would question that, is how much of that was the surrounding party. So this is where Cloud and Zack differentiate. Like, even in their like optimistic sort of, Zack was just like that. He didn't have to have everyone else sort of affecting that. Like, he was like that from the beginning, and sure, like his interactions with Aerith definitely pushed him more and helped his growth more. I say Aerith specifically, but there's some other characters where his interactions with them like pushed him more as a character. But with Cloud, it was like more of a, yes, you could see that, but it still felt like there was more of the dependency on the entire cast in a sense for that. So I don't know. It's a tough conversation for me, because I'm just like, based on Cloud's identity issues. Yeah,
Zack's whole story is kind of his own thing, right? And he was just somebody who right off the bat had a talent and kind of going through, where Cloud's story, he starts off, if you look through the past and stuff like that, when he was a kid, wanting to be a soldier, and he wanted to be a hero, and he wanted to protect people, and he wanted people to notice him and stuff like that. So he had this optimism. But when he got there and realized shit was a lot harder than just saying these words, it's kind of like a story of like how I've dealt as an artist, and being like, where I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna be the best artist that ever was, no one ever. Yeah, Pokemon theme song. But listen, it's applicable because that's how I started out as an artist. And then when I got to college and realized just how behind I was with even my skills, I was like, oh crap, okay, we got to reevaluate this. And so and having to do the grind and stuff like that, and then and it's funny that Cloud kind of goes through those and then kind of comes back to where he thinks he accomplished what he set out to accomplish. And while he still kind of actually saved the world, he didn't actually end up accomplishing his dreams. It was Zack who accomplished his dreams, more or less. And so I definitely could see why the two main character, even in Optimistic, ended up steering differently, and why Zach is more of like, because Zach never really needed, like, he had his mentors and stuff, but the game is very much derived around that Zach is his own thing. Where Cloud, it's a party based game, so you have the party and you have those stuff, and it bounces off of it, just like most Final Fantasy games with party leaders and things like that. Like I would even argue in like Final Fantasy VIII, like a lot of the reasons why I end up liking Squall by the end is because of the rest of the cast and what they bring out of him eventually. And so I find that happens a lot with like the Final Fantasy. It's the same with Final Fantasy 15, another one. Whereas I like Noctis more once, you know, his little bromance crew really brings out a lot better, because he's kind of like the lazy prince in the beginning, and then they bring out the better of him, and then he does what he's meant to do and stuff like that, which is really thick. So yeah, where Zach is a solo, like his whole game is like solo, besides having like the mentors and the odd like little influence, Zach is just Zach. And he could literally have the entire, like, I am the plot line, like, and like the star of the show and everything. So he's kind of like the whole package of a main character, which is understandable why people really drive with him more than maybe Cloud or whatever.
You said something that was really interesting, and I wanna go back to that, because it is like, we're gonna get off on tangents, but it's still kind of on topic. You mentioned the whole point, right? The rest of the cast bringing out Squall. Other than Renoa, I feel like the rest of the cast was kind of just there. Like, I feel like Squall, like Final Fantasy VIII, just felt like it
You're gonna make Ape fans so upset right now.
Oh yeah, no, I'm going to. But Final Fantasy VIII was just like Squall Renoa love story / Squall becoming more of a character. Like, I don't think I feel like the adventure and the things that happened in the world itself actually made Squall, like, turned Squall into a main character, which is kind of why I wanted to tie back to Cloud, where it's like, he was, even though, and most games, like, the main character, like, it's kind of their story, so they still end up developing and still have a personality. So yeah, it's a lot easier to see those things when the game is centered around one person. But, like, there were still enough characters that played, like, you still had Sephiroth, you still had scenes from Cloud, you still had Aerith, you still had Genesis, you still had Angel. Like, those characters still impacted Zach, but, like, he was still the main character, and he still pushed through. Whereas, like, with Cloud, like I said, I just don't feel that enough. And I mean, I'm on record as, like, not really caring too much about Final Fantasy VIII. But yeah, okay. The earlier game, Quistis, I think, had a little bit more of an impact on Cloud as well, or on Squall as well. But, like, most of the game, it was Renoa. And for me, it's like, it was Squall's story. So
this is Renoa's story. Squall was just there.
We could talk about that with Titus and Yuna, but I don't know about all that. I think it was still Squall's story.
Yeah. I'm teasing entirely on that. But yeah, with Cloud, it's like I see it as two different. It's like Zach made his dreams come true, and spoilers, sorry everybody, died a hero kind of thing. Cloud never got his dreams to come true, but he still ended up a hero. Like, you know what I mean? So it's just like it's very different storylines in terms of the characters, and it's like different, like I feel like you kind of root differently for them as well. And then because Cloud was like broken in Final Fantasy VII, and I've realized why she didn't do it, but Tifa, all you had to say is like, hey, you remember this wrong. But I mean, plotline and everything, right? So, and she was scared and stuff like that. And she was also questioning her own. So I get Tifa's side of it. I'm just saying, it was just a really funny point where she's like, she could have been like, there. Kind of idea, right?
I really wish they would rewrite that. Like, that's just one of those
things. It's a plot point where I'm like, it made Tifa look bad, and even when you hear her reasoning later on, it still kind of looks a little bit bad, because here she has her childhood friend where she's like, wait a minute, this isn't actually what like was going on, and realizes the pieces are broken. And it's kind of like one of those things where like you're talking to a friend and you're telling a story, and if they don't interject like things you got wrong in that story, it's just like, you know, but they say like later on, oh, by the way, that was wrong. It's like, wait, why didn't you tell me when I was telling it? Or why didn't you you know, that kind of stuff. So like there's plots and stuff like that with Cloud, but like throughout, I find like when I replayed it on stream and I really saw some of the dialogue, and I was like, okay, you're starting to see Cloud kind of come out on his own. And the things that he says to some of the characters and stuff like that, I'm like, that's a Cloud thing to say. Zach would never say like that. Say stuff like that. Like his dialogue would be like way more upbeat, be like, no, I'm gonna save you. And Cloud's like, I don't want you dying on me. So like I'm gonna come, because that's literally the line in the game. Is that he tells Barrett that he doesn't want he's like, you do whatever you want, but like if you die on me, I'm gonna have nightmares. So like I'm coming with you. Like what? And so that from the OG Final Fantasy VII, that's one of the lines, which they changed it when they remastered it. They ported it, and I don't understand why they changed that. But anyway,
translation issues. That's always going to be
translation issues. Maybe it was like a little bit too mean, but that's one of my favorite lines that Cloud says, because that shows more of his personality, where he's just like, you know, I'm gonna make sure the thing, but like, don't be stupid. Where Zach could be like, I'm gonna help you, and you know, like, so they're very different. Like, so you see bits and pieces of Cloud's personality, and I think that's what really intrigued me with the 7 story, is because eventually you got Cloud by the end, but like with Crisis Core, you get Zach start to finish, and you're just like, I get it now. I get why Cloud looked up to him. I get why people just instantly loved him, because he's the hero, he's talented, he goes in there and he's just like, I'm gonna do this shit, and I'm gonna do it. And he has like bits and pieces of people who influence him, like Aerith and everything, and even Cloud influenced him in a good direction to be like, he wanted to be a hero for his friend as well, right? So it's just like, it's so cool to me that how different they end up being, but I still love them both, and I still have the qualities, but I can understand why people don't like Cloud, or I can understand why maybe they feel like Zack is just the classic hero trope in a lot of like stories and stuff like that. So I could get by, I think, but like, I love how different they are, and I love how their stories are very different, because Cloud goes in from like, I'm gonna be a hero, and has his dream slashed. It's kind of like if Deku never got the power from All Might. What would have happened? Because Deku wanted to be a hero but had no skills, and if he never got the power from All Might, would he have still tried? Would he have still got it's kind of like that what if story, rather than he got the power and went on, like,
that's fair,
and to be his hero, right? So I like those avenues, and I like that Cloud's a little bit more of a realistic avenue in that rec, but you can't pass up Zack's hero he's just a good person, and he's just more of a fun adventure. Save people.
I think that's the biggest thing. It's like, it was just more of a fun adventure, because, and I guess
and it's a lot of fun going through his stuff, even through the hard parts.
I felt like I guess the problem, and I had this problem with Squall too, where I just felt like Zack he was still a realist, even though he was like trying to do everything, right? That felt relatable, and that felt like, okay, this, like, he's trying to get questions answered, whereas with Squall and Cloud, I just couldn't relate to them. I'm just like, okay, like,
yeah, and that's totally fair.
It's like overly extreme, so
yeah, and that's fine. And that's the beauty of the Final Fantasy series, and why I love it so much, is because I find you can find a main character that you connect with. You know what I mean? So like Final Fantasy VII, a lot of people connected with Zack in Crisis Core rather than the actual Final Fantasy VII game, or in Final Fantasy IX with Sedate, or Final Fantasy X, I Will Die on the Hill That It's Yuna, and you know, going through Final Fantasy 12 is Final Fantasy 12, but wasn't really. I still say Balthier and Ash are the main characters, but anyway, we will get into that. But like, yeah, I find with a lot of the Final Fantasy protagonists, you find that you could generally relate to at least the protagonist or maybe the side leading character. So like sometimes it's like one of the female characters. So like you got Garnet. I bonded really strongly with Garnet in Final Fantasy IX. So way more than I did with Zidane, and so that's why she ended up becoming my favorite in that game. So like it's really interesting and stuff. Like I didn't connect with Squall either, but I connected with Renoa because Renoa was just always trying to be a good person and try to do what's right and try to help people and everything. And I really love that quality of her. And that's what I see in Zack. So like Renoa and Zack are very similar to me in terms of like their direction and everything. And while Renoa didn't want to be a hero, she still, she wanted to save her town and she wanted to, progress. And she was always like, hey, I want to actually try to face the sorceress and stop and do what I can to stop this. Even though she kept getting kind of like dragged in and used as like for the sorcerers to advance their stuff, right? So I see similarly between Renoa and Zack and why I bonded with Renoa more than Squall. But I understand why people like Squall. Like Squall appeals to the introverted individual, appeals to the person who never asked to be a hero, who never wanted to be one, who just kind of was going through and just, doing his thing and kind of got dragged into it because of the world. And he steps up midway through and being like, okay, all right. Okay, everybody's depending on me, what the heck? And it's like this introverted, like, had very few friends and stuff. Like, so he appeals to a very different group of people.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I can respect that, but, like, it's just not, it didn't appeal to me.
Mm-hmm. No, same. Yeah.
And that's like your reasoning with Cloud. He didn't appeal to you. You didn't connect with him like you did Zack. So Zack appealed way more to you than Cloud did.
If I had only played Final Fantasy VII and Final Fantasy VIII as a kid, there's a good chance I would not have played another Final Fantasy game. Like, there was a good chance I would not have played. Like, they're good games, but, like, I don't know. I could not relate to any characters in VIII. And, I mean, I put VIII down, like, 4 or 5 times before I had to play VIII on stream to beat it. I had to. And like there were parts that I enjoyed it, but oof, it was a struggle for me. And seven, the older I get, the less I like 7. It's weird. It's really, really weird. Like
maybe it's because they do so much with 7 and not really anything else with anything else.
I don't even know if it's that. It's just like, so I'm gonna go back and replay OG7 at some point.
Okay,
but like, I haven't played 7 in probably like 12, 13, 14 years, something like that. And
okay.
I don't know. I've seen a bunch of people play it over the last few years, and I'm just like, huh. I used to love, like, you can talk to like friends of mine from like high school, and I ranted and raved about Final Fantasy 7. But like now I'm just like, it's a good game. I acknowledge that, but I feel like a lot of it is nostalgia more than anything. And I'm hoping that I'm wrong, and like I know it still holds up to a point, but I don't know. The characters are less relatable for me, and I don't know.
But that Crisis Core remaster remake, it looks like they're remaking some things, but they're also like keeping some things, like a lot of it the same.
It looks like it's gonna be a lot like Demon Souls, where with Demon Souls, what they did was they kept everything the same as far as I know, but they remade all the assets. So it was like it's a complete ground up remake, but it still is 1-to-1. Because, like, that's kind of the idea of, like, a remake versus a remaster. A remake being, like, a remaster, they're just polishing everything, right? With a remake, they're actually building the assets from the ground up. And, like, remakes are more likely to change a story. Remasters are more likely to just add content.
That's true. Yeah, so I would say maybe, like, more like a remaster then. Because I hope so. I hope they're not going to like super change the story of Crisis Core.
Yeah, I really hope they don't change Crisis Core either.
Yeah, but it looks like it's going to be a little bit more gameplay wise, something that like I feel like I could. Because I found like the old one for PSP was very like you were saying RNG related and you very dependent, which I struggle. I struggle with that sort of
Get
stuff.
used to hearing entering combat mode and modulating phase. It's gonna be great.
Yeah,
it's gonna be great.
Oh my god.
Those are words that trigger anybody that's played Crisis Core.
Oh my god. Modulating phase. No, stop it. Yeah. So I'm really, really excited about the remaster as well, because I feel like it's going to tweak the battle system in a way that I will probably enjoy, and finally I could finally experience the whole game start to finish, because I have not actually fully experienced the entirety of it. I got to Nibelheim. That's where I got to. So I'm sure, I know I was close. It's just, I just kept failing at these fights and stuff, and really just RNG was not on my side. And I was like, and I also didn't like holding the PSP. I don't know if anybody remembers the original PSP where it felt like a brick. Like, it was so heavy. That's the one I have. So, like, holding it for long periods of time was really killer on my wrist.
Okay, yeah, there's three models. There's the 1000, there's like the 1000 series, the 2000 series, and the 3000 series. So I also had the 1000 series, but then mine broke because I was using it as like, I was using it more as a like way to browse the internet and stuff, like talk to people on like messengers and things like that, because I didn't have a computer at the time. More than actually playing games on it. And then it broke. I got the 3000 series, and then from there it was like, okay, now I'm using this to play games. I like modded it and stuff like that, and it was great. So yeah, I definitely feel that. But yeah,
the PSP Go, like what Anno said, is they made it a lot like thinner and lighter and stuff like that, and it was a much easier thing to hold on to. But yeah, I had the original PSP, and like I mean, I got tiny like little wrists, and so it was just way too heavy of a controller to hold for like periods of time. And like, that's another thing Victorio just said, that I'm happy it's going to be accessible, and I wish they would do that with more PSP games. There's a lot of PSP games that are still not accessible to this day, and it's incredibly frustrating, because it's like I like Valkyrie Profile Lenneth, I liked Star Ocean Second Evolution. They are not accessible right now. The First Departure is, and in Japan they are, but yeah, Dissidia is another one.
I'm just gonna hold it here. Like, this game
Speaking
is
of
so
accessibility,
good. This game is so good, it's just not accessible.
Yeah, even if they can't invest the time to like actually like remaster them and stuff like that, like they're doing with Crisis Core, but even just to port it and like tweak a few little things would be nice to other devices, because it makes it like you want to replay these things, but like unless you have a PSP. They didn't even put it to PSP Vita, so even if you have the more updated handheld console Sony released, you still can't play PSP games on your PS Vita unless it's been ported already, and on the PSN store. So I'm just like, so it's so exciting, because this is also going to open up a whole new world for a lot of people who didn't play Crisis Core because they didn't have a PSP. So that's going to be really cool to see, like, a lot of streamers and a lot of people in the community that are going to be playing this for the first time, and or beating it me for the first time and seeing the experience of it. But like, man, there's so many PSP games that are so good. Like Dissidia was also another one, that are just PSP games that I'm just like,
I don't trust Square to make another Dissidia game. We'll just leave it at that. I don't trust it.
Just remaster the old one.
I don't trust, like, after the garbage that they put out for the Dissidia game they put out. Oh no, that game hurt me. Oh no, that game hurt me. That was a struggle. Which I guess is a good segue into something that I think is going to be really, really bad. Ever Crisis.
Yeah, we're very differing in opinions of this.
Okay. But, what I will say is, I like the idea. I hate that it's a mobile game. Let's just be honest. Like, let's just get that out there. Like, making this a mobile game is basically just wearing big flashing signs that say, hey, we are about to squeeze you for every dime you have. We are going to lock so many things behind paywalls, and this is going to be such a gotcha game cash grab. That's that is like, I love the idea of being like, hey, we're gonna have everything be one uh entire like cohesive story in one game. I love that. But my question is, so like, what am I gonna have to pay for? Am I gonna have to pay? Am I gonna gonna have to pay to play through Zack's story? Am I gonna have to pay to go fight Emerald Weapon? Am I gonna have to pay to fight Ruby Weapon? Like, am I gonna have to? Am I going to have to like pay for characters? Like, what am I gonna have to pay for? That is my biggest problem, and it's the problem that every mobile game has. Is like, there's always a paywall.
Yeah, because they make it free. Yeah. They make it free so that you'll download it and play it, but then there's things behind paywalls, and that is a very valid concern, because that is kind of where like mobile games in the industry are going to. Because there was back in the day where like when mobile games were first catching on more, they did have where people were like charging like $3 for the game or $4 for the game, but they found people wouldn't pay for it, and they would immediately go towards the free ones. You know what I mean? So they would go to the free games. And so Ever Crisis, I think, would have been great on console and PC. I'm not entirely understanding why they went directly for the mobile. Maybe because it's more of like the chibi graphics, and they can do that, kind of like with the Final Fantasy 15 Pocket Edition, which I don't like to talk about. But it did. That edition did get like some of my friends were able to play it who didn't have consoles, which was like, okay, you're in the Final Fantasy 15 universe now. That's fine. I don't care how you got there, but like. I'm glad that you're just here. So, but with the mobile, with Ever Crisis, it does concern me, because how are they going to make their money back if it's free? And you're right. What are they going to put behind the paywalls? Is it just going to be stuff to have like little Easter eggs, or are they actually going to put characters behind paywalls? Or are they going to put fighting optional things behind paywall? And the one thing that made me most excited for Ever Crisis is because it's the entire compilation. So they're going to be doing Avid Children somehow? Are they making that a playable game? They're going to be doing Before Crisis, which I've never gotten to play. Crisis Core is also in there, as well as Dirge of Cerberus. Are they making them all RPG games? Are they keeping them the same as they were on the other platforms, just, you know, cheapified? Like, I have no idea, but it always intrigued me, because I'm like, finally, you could just play the entire thing in one game. But you're right. What portions are going to be are the other compilations going to be behind paywalls? Where is the paywall going to happen? Because how are they going to make money with a free game? And that's the concerning thing. When I see that it's going to mobile, I'm always like, okay, how are they going to do this? And if it's something like Genshin Impact, where you don't have to pay for anything unless you want some fancy 5-star characters, great. But then I'm like, but I want my Yuffie and my Vincent and my Sid. Are those going to be behind paywalls? Like,
that's kind of what I'm thinking. Like, I'm thinking they're going to have like better versions of characters behind paywalls, and it might even be the case where you can only play part of the story at a certain amount of like, you might have like some kind of stamina maybe, and like you can only play through certain amounts of like story chapters. Because I know some mobile games do that. Like, I know.
See,
Fire
that
Emblem
would
Heroes
be
is
okay,
like that.
though.
Like
Like, I would be okay if they did it where it's like you can play through 3 chapters a day. That way you're not burning out of the content either. So you play 3 chapters a day and you're doing it. Or you could pay money to do more chapters. That is okay, as long as I could play the entire thing for free. I will spread it out and think. As long as I get all my characters and I think. It's when they start doing stuff where like or they put outfits like if Tifa in her little cowgirl outfit, you could buy that if you want. Like, I don't care. So like I'll leave her in her white tank top and her short black miniskirt. It's fine. She's cute. But like putting those behind things and going, oh, like Yuffie's Dirge of Cerberus outfit or her Moogle, like little Moogle outfit stuff, which is also from Dirge of Cerberus. Those things behind paywalls also doesn't matter to me. If people want to play with those skins and stuff that, you know, and want to support it, that's great. But my worry is like, you will get to a certain point and then you can't play for free anymore. That's my only concern. Otherwise, like, I'm super excited for Ever Crisis, because it's all going to be like one for one, which is what people wanted. Just nicer graphics. And it doesn't look like there's voice acting either, so it's going to be a little bit more of a throw into the OG Final Fantasy VII days. It doesn't sound like there's going to be voice acting. And so just cute chibi graphics and stuff. And I'm like, great. Just please don't put behind the things I actually want to do that you promised that I could do behind paywalls, and I will be happy.
It just feels like this is the perfect title for a Switch release. That's literally it. It feels like this is the perfect title for a Switch release. They've done this so many times. Which is what they did
with the Final Fantasy Pocket Edition. That's what it turned out to be. It was perfect for like the Switch, which is fine if that's what they want to do. So then they can have it on the Switch, and maybe the Switch version costs a little bit of money, so they recoup some of their costs, whatever. But like, yeah. I get why they're doing. I'm just concerned because of all the other companies of what they do with mobile games, and they put like so many things behind paywalls, and you're not able to complete stuff. And I can't experience the game without paying a bunch of money, which I will pay. I will throw money at a game if I thoroughly enjoy it, but like I don't want to have to be forced to do that on a free game. You know what I mean? And I'm worried that that's it. But if they did it like where, okay, you could play 3 or 4 chapters a day, I'd be like, cool. I mean, I'm only going to get an hour or 2 to play this game with my busy schedule, so I'll play it and stuff. And anybody who's like, no, I must binge this in one sitting, they can pay for that.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah, I mean, that's how something like Fire Emblem Heroes, I don't know if, I don't think you've ever played, but I played Fire Emblem Heroes for a while. And that's what it was. There's a stamina system. There's also like a dueling system, but they do have like rolling for characters and stuff like that. But they have the story. You can also include like other characters in that aren't necessarily tied to the story. But you basically go through and you can do all of the different story-based missions as long as you have enough stamina. And once you run out of stamina, you can use, there's like items that you can use to buy more stamina, and you can get some of those in-game, and you can also pay for those. So
okay,
that's like a
so
happy medium.
Play majority for free, then that's fine. And like Victorio says, I'm the same thing. Like it'll keep me restrained of binging it all and then being like, okay, I'm done. What next? So like if they did that, that's a great. I enjoy that, and it sounds like Fire Emblem did a really good job with that. Now Fire Emblem has the option of having like extra characters, where Final Fantasy VII, I mean, unless they have like DLC you could pay for where you have Zack in your party just forever, which I don't know, maybe KJ will pay that money to have Zack forever.
Shot. I'm not giving. I am not.
I was teasing.
Anything.
But like,
no, I was gonna say anything.
There's
Final
no way
Fantasy...
they could do rolling for characters except for where they're just removing the chance of being able to get these characters, which will frustrate me because like Final Fantasy VII doesn't have a ton of characters, so they can't do that without it like basically putting Yuffie and Vincent and Sid behind paywalls, which would be very frustrating. So like I'm hoping that won't be the case with that, but like you said, they could do the stamina system. They could do that, and making people who want to play it for free, they're going to take longer on the compilation in the series, and maybe DLC would be getting skins, getting different outfits, because the characters all have various outfits throughout. Crisis Core, Final Fantasy VII, Avid Children, and Dirge Cerberus, they have different outfits. So like you can very well also include that as little extras if people want to pay money to get the other outfits and run around as Avid Children Cloud, they can do that. But for those of us who don't care very much about like the skins and stuff like that, and would rather not, just play through the game and just basically be like more of a standard, that's fine. But if they put chapters behind paywalls, that might be a deal breaker for me. I might not end up playing it because it's like, unless it comes out like a full version on the Switch for like $10 where I get the whole thing and I'm not behind that, then that's a different story. But I'm not a huge mobile gamer, and the only reason I would be playing it is just to get my OG content, and see how they do Advent Children, Dirge of Cerberus, and Before Crisis. I'm very curious about how they're going to do that.
It's really funny for me. So I think about this a lot. If this was not Final Fantasy VII, would people accept all of this? Like, would we really accept a 3-part remake with DLCs that are split across consoles and a mobile game that might have paywall, microtransactions, all of that? If this was not Final Fantasy VII, would people really accept this? I don't think so. Like, if there's the only things that I feel like people would accept this even close to, like, there's very few franchises that this would be like, people would be totally okay with this. Like, as many people as they, like, because, again, I feel like a lot of people are just, like, writing off the fact that these things are happening when it's like, there are so many potential cash grabs out there, and Square is leaning into all of them with Final Fantasy VII. Like, all of them. And for me, personally, like, originally I was like, I'm not going to buy any more Square things. And I was like, you know what? No. It's not that I'm not going to buy any more Square things. I'm going to try my best to support the things that I think are being done well. Whereas, like, yeah, Final Fantasy VII, I'm just like, I don't want to support this because it does feel like a cash grab. And honestly, so somebody brought up Final Fantasy IX. I do think they would have milked the hell out of it. And it's funny because personally, all the remake rumors of Final Fantasy IX, I'm just like, I'm not a fan. Like, leave Final Fantasy IX alone. Like, I have...
It's bad enough they're doing a
way
cartoon.
Too many copies of Final Fantasy IX on the shelf behind me. But, like...
Yeah, they've ported that game very well, to be
like,
perfectly honest.
I have a damn Zidane figure on my desk. Like, but I'm just not... I don't, like, leave the games... Like, some of these games, they just have to leave... They just have to leave alone. Like, I'm just, like... I feel like some things are just better left alone. Like, they could be... So Retro, you mentioned, like, how do they recoup... They got to recoup their money somehow. But I think they could just be putting... All of this time that they've put into 7R, they could have made Final Fantasy 16 the best game ever. Like, they've done so many good things, but, like, because it's Final Fantasy 7, it just feels like they're milking it. That's the problem I have with it.
Yeah, and I think that's always going to be the feeling just because of how many titles they put to the Final Fantasy 7 and how many across the systems they've done and how many times, like, they keep, like, bringing this back and making it seem like it's the only Final Fantasy game out there that exists. Sometimes, so it kind of, like, wraps around that. And yeah, and, like, I expect the predatory, like, microtransaction stuff. I expect it, but I'm just hoping that in some great, like, even if they were like, okay, here's the full mobile game, here it's $20, you get all the compilations, you get all this stuff, here you go. I would pay it to get all of that in one go. But, like, if you're going to put a whole whack of things behind, like, DLC, microtransaction-y stuff or whatever, that might actually just make it where I don't play it at all until I see a version of it that comes out. Because let's be real, it's going to come out for the Switch. It's literally geared towards being able to be on the
microtransactions. If there's microtransactions...
Unless there's microtransactions, and then they'll have to either take that out when they put it on the Switch, or they'll make it, like I said, a $20 or $30 game on the Switch to be able to play the whole thing without those things. So it's like, I'm not in a rush to play this, and if it's littered with that, I just won't, and I'll wait it out and see what they do. Like with the Pocket Edition with Final Fantasy 15, I think it was the complete version that they just threw on there of the whole Pocket. I think they left that one free though. I can't remember.
I don't remember it was free, but yeah, I think the best way to do it would be make it a complete game, put it out on mobile, and then eventually put it on the Switch. If they were to, I think that there would be more backlash if they decided, hey, we're going to take this game that had microtransactions, take them out, and make it a game on the Switch. Because then people are going to be like, why didn't I just pay for the game as a whole and not need microtransactions?
Yeah, that'll be the also thing for anybody who's jumping onto it on mobile. But circling back to our overall topic with, like, I am very intrigued. I really like the remake. I very much enjoyed the battle system. I loved everything that they improved of it. I'm really hopeful that Rebirth and the third one will be good. But yeah, Ever Crisis, while I'm really excited about it because it's literally the carbon copy everybody wanted, that is the one thing that's put me back to, like, the cautiously optimistic stage, right? Whereas, leading into the next topic, Final Fantasy 16, I am more hopeful, optimistic. I honestly, hearing what they're doing with that game, I'm incredibly excited about it, and I feel like it's going to be. It might not be everybody's cup of tea because of its combination of like Devil May Cry and fantasy, Final Fantasy stuff, and that's not everybody's cup of tea, and I understand. But like, they just seem to be doing so many things with Final Fantasy 16. Like they announced that it's not open world, but it's like segments, which I think is smart because not everything has to be open world. And that's where like a lot of the issues come with me with games like glitches and stuff when it's like super open world and it has like a lot of that stuff. But for Final Fantasy 16, like that's where I'm more hopeful, optimistic, and that'll be really, really good. And I'm really, really excited about it. But I realize that certain people that I'm looking at right now might be a very different opinion. So KJ, what is your first thoughts about that?
I hate the fact that they came out and said that Final Fantasy 16 is not open world. It's 2022. We're on the PlayStation 5. Like these things are basically these things are like base at this point. The new consoles are running like computers. Like why can't we have an open world game? Like a true open world Final Fantasy. Like I think yes, there would be glitches and things, but that's why they don't rush these things. Like you have QA for a reason. You have these things to test. Like Square has and this goes back to the whole milking 7R. Rather than putting all your spreading your resources so thin, why don't you go and dedicate all of your best people to Final Fantasy 16. Make Final Fantasy 16 the true like experience that everyone wants on the PlayStation 5. If you are going to like go all in, don't.
Yeah, I think it's because they were doing the remake part 2 and this at the same time, because the remake part 2 I think is what they're going to do open world, and then they didn't want it to be the same sort of experience because the battle system is similar in 5. So I think that's why they went differing. But I see your point where like why didn't they just put because I think they have like a huge team working on it. They have the Final Fantasy 14 team. They have a lot of like top tier people. Like it's their top team is like working on it, but I think their top team's also working on Rebirth. So yeah, maybe it was just literally the separation of it. But I don't know. Like I'm team not open world. Everything keeps being open world, so it's like it's gonna be different at least. And if they do it right, and they do it maybe even like kind of like they do with Final Fantasy 14, where you're zoning in and stuff like that, I think it could still be a really like engaging experience. It's just they have to do it. There's more pressure on doing it right because a lot of people are expecting open world this day and age with the way PS5s and consoles are literally little computer tanks. And so everything is open world. Like, I mean, Elder Scrolls 6 is going to be open world. Starfield is open world. Upcoming games and stuff. Like, these games are all open world. And for them to kind of go backwards a little bit, it has to be done really, really well. So, which I'm hopeful, optimistic that it's going to be done really well.
See, okay, I guess my biggest thing for that is I don't want load times. Like,
as long as they're not going to have like super load times and like you load in, and if they do it right, which the technology is there to back that up, and there's still no load times.
Like, I just think like it's like why cut me to a different thing? Like I just want to be walking in just like real life. Like if I'm in one city and then I'm walking into another city, like it's just smooth. It's a smooth transition. Like that's what I want. I don't want and I want to be able to one of the things I love about games is being able to just wander off, have these side quests, like all these different things. If it feels more zoned, I feel like that's going to make the game feel more linear, even if it's not linear. So that's kind of my biggest thing is like if it feels if the game feels linear, I'm gonna have an issue with it.
Yeah. And I think also open world will also be like a lot of like open world games. What they do is like slap a whole whack of side quests and then just call it a day kind of thing. And so there's like this super like grind and everything.
Mhm.
It'll be really interesting how Final Fantasy 16 like are they going to have side quests a little bit more because they're not doing open world? Is it going to be a little bit more like story connected, which I find with a lot of side quests and stuff like that in open world RPG games, you don't really connect with them. With the exception, one game I felt that did it really well was Witcher 3. A lot of the side quests, I was like, my heartstrings were tugged. Even on those side quests, as opposed to just the main story. And so there's also the question of side quests and stuff like that, where open world will do just kind of like slap it all together, and then also like maybe which kind of takes away from the experience where you're just like running around grinding, and then you're like, oh yeah, I've played 200 hours of this game and I've not done any plot line, and I'm calling myself out with Skyrim, but but like it's one of those things where it's like I didn't like with Skyrim though. I was like I jived more with the side quest than the main quest line. So like I was all team companions. I was all team like that sort of stuff. So like you can still have a bunch of side quests and make it really an enjoyable experience. It's just I've been finding with a lot of more recent open world RPG games and stuff that do that, the side quests aren't like really like pulling me in plot wise. So it'll be interesting how if Final Fantasy 16 has side quests and how they tackle that.
See, the way I would like to see that, so I agree with you. I agree, like, side quests that feel more monotonous or feel like fetch quests or anything like that, I don't like. But what I really would like to see is open world where side quests, where the story is cohesive and you have everything. Like, you don't have to do the side quests and the story is complete, but the side quests and like different things outside of that tie back into the story and make it like add on to it more. And one example I want to give is something like Lost Odyssey. So not everybody's played Lost Odyssey, but for those of you that have played Lost Odyssey, like you have the main story and it is a cohesive story, like you can get everything, but there's also these dream sequences where you find these different things and they're not playable. They're only like dialogue, but you go through, you find the dream sequences and they all tie back into the story. And that's the kind of thing that I would really like to see, because the premise of the game is like the main character is like, some of the characters in the game are immortal. So they've lived like more than the average human life. Okay. And you get to see some of their lived events and lived experiences through finding these dream sequences. So that is something that I would really like to see, where it's like, oh, okay, you can play the story, you can play the game, you can get the story, you can understand why things are the way they are, but hey, we have these 40 side quests that if you do all of these side quests, you're going to get even more, and you're going to get more character background.
Yeah.
You're going to get...
If Final Fantasy 16 does that, holy heck, I'm doing that game to completion, because that's what I like. And so it makes me excited because I want to play Lost Odyssey. A certain amazing person here sent me a copy. So like, yeah, so that's on the playlist, and that makes me really excited because that's what I like. Like if you give me the side quests where they're not just, and that's what I'm struggling with Final Fantasy 14, as much as I'm super excited and I know the story is going to pick up, a lot of the beginning AR stuff, Realm Reborn stuff, is a lot of fetch quests, and you're not really pulled in, and there's no real voice acting, and this is main storyline quests and stuff too. So it takes a little bit more to like pull me in, and I just get kind of a little bit bored. But if you give me like they're tied in somehow, there's like maybe you'll get like extra stuff, or maybe extra characters, or extra like items and things like that that tie into the main plot line and stuff, then I'm all for it. And I'm 100% for those side quests. And you're saying Lost Odyssey did that really well. See, that's what I liked. Whereas like the opposite for Skyrim is like, I didn't care really about the main storyline, and I cared more about the side quests. that didn't really full on tie into the main storyline. So that's why I ran around the game doing all the side quests rather than the main storyline. I've never beaten it. So that's like the opposite of like also what I'm hoping Final Fantasy 16 doesn't do. But Baku's right. They did confirm that they have side quests and crafting and stuff in it. So it's going to be like, if they have these side quests and they tie into the main plot and you're kind of doing these extra things and you could go off and do these things to get extra content, or you could just continue off with the game, that will be aces in my book. That's exactly what I want. And if they're able to do that a little bit better and not have it open world, that's fine too. Like if there's reasons behind why they didn't go open world and it works really well with the game, great. If they just didn't do open world because they couldn't, they didn't have the time or something like that, that worries me, because it's like, are you splitting up your teams too much and focusing too much on too many things at once? Because, I mean, we also have other games that we might briefly talk about, but they're working on Valkyrie Profile. They're working on the new Star Ocean game. And you don't know which teams are where they're going. So it's like, are these just too many titles all at once, so they had to limit? Or is there an actual like thing? And it feels more like there's a reason why it's not open world, which has me excited. And that they're going to build that into the experience. So it'll still be a... very like engaging, intuitive experience, even with like the side quest, or even with that. And yeah, hopefully because it's on PS5, hopefully the load times are not a factor.
Yeah,
I could understand this day and age, you don't want to have to be dealing with a whole lot of load times.
It's like, funny because I definitely have the other opinion of like, I feel like they're doing this because they stretched themselves a little thin. I think between all of the, so they have their team that's working on like all of the sort of, we'll just lump them in as like the Switch games, right? So you have the Bravely Default series, you have the team that was working, it's like the Octopath team, right? Octopath, Bravely Default, Triangle Strategy, like the teams that's working on all of that, they're the ones that I think are working on the DQ3 remake also.
Yes, I think they're doing that one too.
But then, really cool. Okay, so let's just think about like big games that they've announced, right? You have the new Star Ocean game. You have the new Valkyrie Profile game coming. You have 3 different Final Fantasy VII games coming. You have Forspoken. You have DQ12 that they've like kind of teased. Like, these are all games. And then on top of that, they're still supporting Final Fantasy XIV.
Yeah, so, and then they're working on Final Fantasy 16.
And then they're working on 16. And like, there's definitely overlap. Like, we've just listed 9 different things that they've talked about / like teased in some way, shape, or form. And all of these things are like, it can't be a different studio working on it. I mean, just with 14 and 16, we know it's not a different studio. We know it's
the same team. Yeah.
Like So I don't know. I feel like they backtracking on 16 being open world. I feel like they're going to be basically saying, hey, we're making this not open world because there's a little bit of like, we're kind of dialing back to make sure we don't stretch ourselves too thin. That's kind of the feeling that I get.
That's the only thing that I'm worried about. And then it also is like, so like Final Fantasy are their big titles and stuff like that. What's going to happen to the other ones? Like, for example, I am concerned about the Star Ocean, the new Star Ocean 6 and Valkyrie Profile, because they're reviving Valkyrie Profile, which they haven't done anything with Valkyrie Profile in a while. They did little things that didn't end up going well, but their last bigger Valkyrie Profile tie-in was the PS2 version. I know there was a DS version too, and I think there was like a mobile thing or whatever, but I don't count those because they like
that. Yep.
Yeah, they're very like very very little sort of like, so Valkyrie Profile 2 was like their last like big thing into the Valkyrie Profile. But with Star Ocean 6, they've recently, at least in the PS4 era, had done faithlessness, integrity and faithlessness, and that definitely did not meet the standards of like their Star Ocean games. So like, it worries me that there's 9 titles we just listed, and I'm sure there's more because there's also
Kingdom Hearts 4.
There's the Dragon Quest 3 remake we didn't talk about, so
and Kingdom
10.
Hearts 4
and Kingdom Hearts 4. So like
Yeah.
that's 11 titles for the studio, and like it worries me that they're like stretched out too far.
Hmm.
And while it might be like pressure and stuff like that to getting more games out and stuff like that to make money, it's concerning because it's like I know Square Enix is a um like they can make great games.
Yeah.
They have proved they make great
Hmm.
games. And so it's just so that's why everybody puts them at a much higher standard because they know they're capable of it. So when you spread out between so many titles, it really, really concerns me that which ones are going to be the bad ones and which ones are they going to drop the ball on to lift up the other ones. Because I just feel like that's so many people in their studio going to be spread out on so many different things. And some of them are easier than others, like the Dragon Quest 3 remake. Yeah, it's a pixel sort of thing, and they're kind of going in the Octopath direction, but it's still time consuming for all of these things. So there's a lot of titles. There's 11. We haven't even talked about
they announced
past
another
Final Fantasy 16, and there's like,
they
how
also
many
announced
more?
another tactics game, like vaguely. But
And
yeah.
they just released Triangle Strategy,
Yep.
and they just, released or just a little while ago the Yuffie DLC and things like that. So it's like, wow, that's a lot of things under their belt right now. And I'm just like, and my biggest fear is the ones that are going to get dropped in terms of like quality is the Valkyrie Profile and Star Ocean.
Yeah, the
Because
Enix
it's
titles
like-
are ones that people don't necessarily like. There's a fan base for them, but it's like it's definitely the people that played them in the beginning of the like when the games came out, and probably pre-merger too, like pre Square Enix merger. It almost definitely. So
Yeah, which is sad because like I'm a huge NX fan. Like a lot of their games I love. Like I just played Illusion of Gaia on stream and that was really cool and I really loved that. And then we have the Star Ocean series. Like up until 4, like 4 was good, but it started to lose me a little bit. And then 5 I don't talk about. And then with Valkyrie Profile, like 1 and 2 were great. Like I actually really did still love the PS2 version, and I love that it was a prequel to the original story, and they did the story a little bit different, which was kind of neat, and focused on a different cast of characters, which is also cool. But like, so I'm a big fan, and like I'm also a Dragon Quest fan and stuff. So like I'm a big fan of their titles, and I just feel like Valkyrie Profile hasn't been touched in a long time, so it might not have the following, so it might be the one. But they have the potential of like if they make that title really good, they're gonna have people going out and buying too. They're gonna have people going out buying the original and the Lenneth copy and going out and experiencing all the older games because the new Valkyrie Profile was really good and people really loved it and they want to go back and experience it. The same with the Star Ocean series. So it's like they have this opportunity to revive these series and revive them well. And I'm concerned that those are going to be the ones that they drop. And you're right there. That is a concerning thing with Final Fantasy 16. Maybe they could have done open world and they wanted to, but because of being spread out, that's why they dropped. That's why I'm kind of hoping it's more of a part of the game reason why they did it, and not just because they have too many people spread out. Because that's the thing is like even as an artist, if you do too many different things, you're never going to get very good at one.
yeah.
You know what I mean? So like, while yeah, you probably make more money because you've done all these different things, your quality doing all these different things is going to be way more fluctuating, right? So it's just I always worry when game studios like take on so many, and like you said, there's been so many games now. Now we could maybe theorize that they've announced these games, but they're not working on them yet until the other ones are done. So that could be a case, but I don't know. I don't know the inner workings of the studio. So
Yeah, it's definitely tough. Like it's trying to figure out sort of the prioritization of the games and such. And I mean, Star Ocean 5 shows that they didn't really prioritize the Star Ocean series at all.
Yeah,
like that
yeah,
game.
that they 100% didn't, and they didn't give it the love and the attention that it deserves, because the Star Ocean series is a very good series and plotline and stuff. So like it bummed me out that they didn't do that, because I'm a huge fan of it. I love 1, 2, and 3, and I will die on the hill that those games are incredible games. And then The Last Hope started to lose me a little bit, but it was more the main character. I didn't connect with the main character as much, but it was still a really good game. The battle system was really good. The music was great. Matoe is just a freaking genius, composing genius. And so you have this potential right now to revive these series, and that's what I want, because with Square Enix is still one of the AAA bigger studios that I may not like every game that they produce, and I will be very transparent in that I don't like everything that they come out with. But, Triangle Strategy, that was awesome to watch UKJ play it. Like, I had such a blast being super involved in that game, even though I never touched it controller-wise. It was so good watching you play.
Yeah,
and
Triangle Strategy was a lot of fun. I mean, they did well with that.
Yeah, they did well, and even the introduction, and the way they had the different characters and the different classes, that it was just a phenomenal game. Octopath Traveler, glad you got me to play it. Also phenomenal game. I Am Setsuna, also a final
Yeah,
I'm really excited to try the Bravely Default. Thanks to you. Like, one of those games is going to be on our podcast in the future. So I'm really excited about that. Like they do really, really well. But sometimes it just feels like things are rushed, or things are pushed, or they're being yelled at to release things too soon. Then that's when it's just okay, I wasn't a huge fan of that, or I didn't really like that. And the Final Fantasy VII remake, I thought was I love the battle system in that. I was so immersed in the battle system and playing around with it, and I thought they did a really, really good job there, and kind of bringing that in. And I as a fan was happy it wasn't a carbon copy, just because I was I've played Final Fantasy VII so many times that it's nice to have something that might be a little bit different. Again, circling back, as long as they don't destroy some of my big plot points, we'll be good.
Oh, but I'm expecting.
It concerns me, because I'm I love a lot of Square Enix titles. I love the Dragon Quest series. I love these things. I love when they try something new, like the Octopath Traveler and the Triangle Strategy. Those were great hits, and great nostalgia to the pixel era, but also reamped to now, where it still looks really phenomenal, even though it's pixel art and the 3D pixel backgrounds and stuff. Oh, it's just beautiful. If they went around and remade Final Fantasy 4, 5, and 6 like that, or earlier pixel games and stuff that I really love, that's why I'm really excited about Dragon Quest 3 being remade by that team, because I think it's going to look gorgeous, and it's one of the Dragon Quest games that I've really liked, and I thought where Dragon Quest started to go up a little bit, and so because 3, 8, and 11 are my favorites, so I'm super excited, but it worries me that we were just able to list 11 off the top of our heads, and not even looking at their full list. There might be other games in there we're missing.
Yeah,
maybe there's another Tomb Raider game in there. I don't know, but
I think they sold the Tomb Raider
that's right, they
IP.
sold that,
and that's another thing. I mean, their reasoning was they wanted sort of the instant return on the games, and they felt they weren't getting it, but they just sold three IPs as well. Dragon Quest 3. We could talk about Dragon Quest 3. We could definitely talk about that. Oh my goodness. I saw Dragon Quest 3, and I am not really a Dragon Quest person, so I was talking about this yesterday on stream, but I rented a copy of Dragon Quest 3 from either Hollywood Video or Blockbuster, or Dragon Quest 8, I think, for the PS2, and I put it in the PlayStation, and in the opening cutscene, it froze on me, and I just never played Dragon Quest again. Then I played DQ11, and I don't know, it just, the music was very repetitive. It didn't really hook me in. DQ3, I was okay, they're remaking Dragon Quest. It's gonna be the Octopath team. This is gonna be dope. I'm watching it. I'm excited. I'm oh, this is cool. They get into the battle. Golden Sun is one of my favorite games of all time. I see it. I'm oh my goodness, this looks like Golden Sun. This is great. And then they attack, and it just zooms in on the monster, and there's like a little like damage sprite thing that happens, and then it has the number, and it says like, you did 8 damage to slime, and I'm like, okay, throw this game away. Like, I was so excited. I was excited. You see the main character, I'm like, oh, he's about to do something. He's about to go in like and like stab and slash this slime, and then
and I knew anything. As soon as that, I was like, this is KJ's opinion now. I knew that was gonna happen.
That was the biggest tease. Oh my goodness, I was absolutely heartbroken. Like, it just and I get that they're trying to stay traditional. They're trying to, like, I respect that. I respect that they are trying
Dragon Quest
to
series from start to finish is they're trying to keep the traditional and just update it into new things.
I respect that.
But if you don't like that old thing, it's like hard to get into that franchise.
Oh, it makes me so sad. I was so excited.
The music is often the same. The enemies are often the same. Like, they're trying really hard to keep that streamlined. So if you are not a fan of earlier Dragon Quest games, if you play 8 or 11 and you're just like, you're not super like into it and stuff, that's exactly where you'll lose that disconnect. And while Dragon Quest 3 is being done by the Octopath team, they are also still being directed to still keep that bit in. So I knew when I watched that, I was like, oh, he's gonna love this. Oh, he's not gonna love this. Because I was like watching it like a little real time, and that's exactly what I was thinking. Yeah. Because you don't like the zoom in kind of aspect where you can't see the characters and stuff like that anymore.
It hurts.
But yeah, I'm still really excited about it because it's one of the Dragon Quest games I really like. And it's where Dragon Quest started to like, aka Dragon Warrior, depending on how you want to go about it, where they started like introducing multiple characters, and the storyline wasn't like incredibly confusing, and you just happened to have to talk to this one random person in this one random town sort of idea, where things were a little bit easier to figure out and wasn't like super chaotic, and the story was starting to get really like pull you in kind of idea, really, because the first 2 games, while I enjoyed them, they weren't like super like pull you in story wise and stuff like that. But 3 is where they started to do that, and 3 stood out to me as one of the, and I'm glad that they're starting with 3 and having that team do it, because the Octopath team is phenomenal with triangle strategy and stuff. Those look fucking gorgeous. So I'm really excited about that. But yeah, it's still going to be a Dragon Quest game, which means it's still going to have even though it's a remake, it's still going to have those elements that ties in that the Dragon Quest fans really like, but maybe the people outside that are not a huge fan of it, like, oh, come on, again?
Yeah.
And just avoid it.
It's a bit of a struggle. It is a bit of a struggle for me. I'm like, I want to give it a shot. And I've been going back and forth about DQ. DQ11. I'm just like, am I gonna put 70-80 hours into this game and I'm just like not really feeling it? I don't know.
You watch somebody play through 3, maybe.
Through 3. Okay. No, I was gonna say I watched 70 hours of DQ11 gameplay, and so I know what happens. I know the entire story, but I don't know. It's just not for me. But again, like, I love. Fair. I mean, of all of the games that the like studio, that part of the studio that's working on that game, the only one I haven't played is Bravely Second.
Okay.
I beat Bravely Default. I beat Bravely Default 2. I beat Octopath. I 100%ed Octopath.
Yes,
so like I beat Triangle Strategy. So I'm like, I'm interested.
You still haven't finished the Golden Route, though.
I have not finished the Golden Route. I also need to play Bravely Second. But we're gonna play that, and we'll talk about the we'll talk about the Bravely games. That'll be fun. But yeah, no, I was a little disappointed, and that kind of actually leads me into my next question for you. Is like, what game of all the things that we kind of listed, what are you most excited about coming from Square?
Ooh, that's a great question. We should both answer that. That's great.
Yeah, okay, I'm trying to think of my answer, but
okay. So out of all the games we have listed, I would say probably I have to do like a top 3 because there's a few like in there and stuff like that. but I think our list is going to differ entirely.
Oh, 100%.
But I am really, really excited for Final Fantasy VII Part 2 Rebirth. I'm very excited for Final Fantasy 16, and then Dragon Quest 3 has got me really, really stoked. Now, Star Ocean would be up there if I didn't have the previous title kind of looming over and making me a little bit nervous. Because I love, like, so Star Ocean gets an honorable mention, but like I really hope they do well. They're doing the little classic Star Ocean stuff, like Star Ocean 1, 3, and 5 have blue-haired main characters. Star Ocean 2, 4, and 6 have yellow, blonde main characters.
Okay.
I think little things like that where I'm like, okay, they're already starting into these little traditions, which is good, a good sign. But it has me like that, very cautious because of the last title. I didn't even beat the last title. I'm sorry, Square Enix, but I didn't even get halfway. I gave up.
Wow.
It's just like,
wow.
I was not enjoying this experience. But so like Part 2, 16, and Dragon Quest 3 are the top ones. But honorable mention going to Star Ocean. Valkyrie Profile, they haven't shown me enough for me to be like, is this going to be what I want it to be? Because I love the Valkyrie Profile series, and I'm so excited. After Shining Force 2, I think, KJ, you're playing Valkyrie Profile, the original?
Ooh, yep.
So I'm very excited about that, because that is a very different game experience, and I find people either love it or they hate it.
Okay,
but
that's
like,
good to know.
Good music, good battle system, good character stuff, or whatever, and everything. Like, so I want to be hopeful for Valkyrie Profile, but there's just not enough on it. So I think they like tease that they're doing stuff, but they're just not into it. And so that is my list. That's Star Ocean gets an honorable mention because I'm really crossing my fingers. I don't know how I feel about the character art right now, but I could grow to it. I could grow to like it. So we're being hopeful, but like I'm also very cautious about that title. So yeah, the three that I feel like are going to be great for me is the Part 2, the 16, and Dragon Quest 3 remake. That was a phenomenal idea to go in the direction of like the Octopath and Triangle strategy pixel and put that, but with Dragon Quest. Oh, I'm so excited about it. But
yeah, that's actually so. It's for me.
So you on your side of things, we just put like 11 games.
Yeah, so I think I'm actually very, very excited for Forspoken. I think Forspoken is going to be really cool. I've liked what they've shown gameplay wise. I love the fact that there is it's like a new female main character of color. I love that. I
didn't even think about that. That's such a great
that
step
is
forward.
Oh my goodness, I'm so happy. I'm so happy about that. So yeah, Forspoken's definitely on the top of my list. That'll be a day one pickup for me. After that, it's probably got to be the Crisis Core remake. Again, game accessibility and just like I love Crisis Core. So
you love your boys back. That makes sense.
Just being able to like recapture that experience. Like, it's funny, I might not even play the Crisis Core remake. That is something I'll probably buy, leave sealed on, like I might buy that would be something that I would potentially buy a collector's edition, leave sealed, and just keep that way. That is the direction that I would potentially go. Third, it's really tough. This is actually really tough. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe I would be interested in 16. I'm so iffy on. Like, I don't know. 16, I'm just like, maybe it's gonna be good. Maybe it's not. I'm iffy on 16. I don't know. I think the third one.
So Forspoken, Crisis Core remake, and the third one is
probably 16. It's probably got to be 16, just because it's a new story. Rebirth would be like my honorable mention.
Okay, so Rebirth is going to be your honorable
Yeah,
mention.
Rebirth
Okay.
would be like my honorable mention, just because like it's really hard for me to it's so hard for me to separate the fact that like I hate the DLC thing and all of that. Like it's so like 7R. It's so tough. It's so tough for me. But like I mean, big shout outs to TN who's in chat. Like TN was like, oh, you aren't gonna play the DLC, but you have a PS5. I'm gonna donate for you to go get the DLC. Like TN is the reason I played the DLC, because I was just like, I have a PS5, but I'm not playing the DLC. But I couldn't. I couldn't.
That sounds like best friend. That sounds like best friend TN.
Not like like TN was like, no, you're gonna play it, and I was just like, well, you did this, now I have to play it. And it was like, it wasn't a bad game. It was good, but it's just so tough for me to buy into like the things that they're doing with Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah, and for me, because best friend missed it, so best friend will be happy with me. My order is I'm really excited for Rebirth, Final Fantasy 16, Dragon Quest III remake, and Star Ocean gets an honorable message because I'm just really hoping it's good. But Forspoken is I didn't even think about that, but Forspoken's got me really intrigued because it is a new IP.
Yes.
And you're right. It's a female of color lead main character. The battle system looks really, really interesting. Very kind of homage to what I'm enjoying right now that Square is doing. And like it does look really good, so I might need an honorable mention too now. But yeah, like so there's a few of them that we're excited about, but like there's other ones that I would love to be excited about. And again, Crisis Core is great, but I haven't been able to do the whole experience, so this is it'll be interesting because I'll finally get to do the whole experience, and I'm sure you guys will move it up to my backlog when it comes out, so that I do end up playing I'll play the remaster version of it. So but I'm just concerned, like what we're throwing back to, that there's so many things that they're in development, and so I don't have really an opinion of Kingdom Hearts 4 because I need to play way more of the Kingdom Hearts series to have an opinion. Valkyrie Profile, there wasn't enough of it yet for me to be like, where are we going with this direction? Are we doing a prequel? Are we doing a sequel? What are we doing? And so, or we're doing a new story in the Valkyrie Profile universe. Like, I don't know where it's going, so it's not enough there. And yeah, some of the other ones I'm just kind of like, okay. I mean, we also have a Final Fantasy IX cartoon coming, but it's not actually by Square. They passed it off to a different studio, which I was telling KJ, like I showed him the studio, and I was like, okay, they've done some shorts and they've done some like things that were really interesting and really intriguing, and a deeper plot line of it and stuff like that, because they were talking about like social issues and also like really heavy topics, but doing it in a way to appeal to children, which I thought was very interesting, because I did some peeking into this, but I'm still not sure how I feel about
I'm not
doing
convinced
that
at all. Champ is 100% right. I am not convinced. Like, Final Fantasy IX is...
It's too dark for kids. I don't know how they're gonna, unless they go into where they're really playing up Vivi is the main, like, is the narrator.
Is telling the story, yeah.
Telling the story from a child's eyes kind of experience. I don't know how they're gonna do it.
Here's my problem with okay. If this ever gets back to Square, please leave Final Fantasy IX alone. Just like, don't touch it. Just like, leave it alone. Final Fantasy IX is one of those games. It's one of the games that they did well. Like, the game is well done. The story is complete. They don't need to do anything else with it. Please do not Final Fantasy VII, Final Fantasy IX. Like, don't do this.
Final Fantasy IX came out at a time where, like, graphics-wise, it still looks really good.
Yeah, it still holds up, especially for a PS1 game.
I can understand them remastering, remaking stuff's Final Fantasy VII because it was like their first PlayStation game, and blocky arms aside, and we all laugh at it. We're like, oh yeah, that's super nostalgic to us. At this point in the time, that doesn't really appeal to anybody. Like, as we go and as new gamers come up, that doesn't appeal to them. So I understand. And even Final Fantasy VIII, like the character models and things like that were rough. And while I still enjoy playing 8 and playing it more than the remaster, I understood why I did it. Final Fantasy IX was both nice looking, cutscenes were good, story was great. Like everything is a full package. It doesn't even need it. You know what I mean?
It ended in a way that didn't leave you with questions. 7 and 8 both left you with a lot of questions. So like that was and even 10 left you with a lot of questions. Like there were like all of the Final Fantasy games around the time of even Final Fantasy Tactics. The end of that leaves you with some questions. Like all of the other Final Fantasy games that were made around that time leave you with questions asking like, okay, what's the like what else?
What's next?
How does this end? How does this wrap up? Final Fantasy IX put a nice bow tie on it and said, this is a done story.
Yeah, so. And No Girl's got a good point. Like way back in the day, like there are some dark final like kids movies and stuff. So like she absolutely the Don Bluth production team did the thing like Secret of Nim, All Dogs Go to Heaven. Like these were all like Titan AE. These were all like stories that like they were darker in theme for kids and stuff. But nowadays, that's not common. That is very not common with kids TV shows, kids movies, kids stuff or whatever. And so that's where it got like I think maybe back in the day maybe. So that's where it's got me a little bit concerned. But there are also like kids stuff or whatever. But like KJ doesn't like cliffhangers.
No, I like things to be like if I like things to be completed.
Wrap the story up.
Yeah, wrap it up. If I'm playing, especially if I'm putting 60, 70, 80, 90 hours into like a game or something, I want this to be a complete, like I want it to be complete. I can understand like if I'm watching a movie and it's like 2 hours, sure, like you can leave the story and make another one. But if I'm sitting down and spending a lot of time playing a game, I just want this to be like, hey, this is done, let's wrap it up and we can keep going. And if it turns out to be that there's a sequel and there's like another story arc, then like fine, that's okay. But oh my goodness, just like please wrap it up.
And people will argue like Final Fantasy VII didn't need anything, but like it was still like, okay, what happens now? Sort of thing. It didn't really like give you like it showed the world being saved, but like it didn't give you like a full on conclusion at the end like 9 did, where 9 showed you the world was saved and then character like it goes off or whatever and stuff like that, and you don't know what happens, and then they write the ending that what happens. What happens to Vivi. What happens to Zidane. You could
what
theorize what happened to Kuja. So like it wraps it up. Where 7 it didn't do that. 8 didn't really do that either. And like 10 didn't, because like people saw that thing and saw Titus in the water and stuff like that, and they're like, okay, what? And so it didn't do that either. 12, I haven't beaten it, so we won't talk about it. 13, it left it open, and 15 actually wrapped it up until the DLC gave you questions.
Oh jeez, don't tell me that. I haven't played 15 yet.
Okay, so they're like, you're right. 9 was one of the only ones in that era of games that wrapped things up and was like, okay, there's no doubting what happened. There's no questioning a thing. I mean, you could kind of maybe question like maybe Kuja, but like at the same time, it's pretty well like it didn't show it, but it's pretty well what happened. Like, but yeah. Yeah, Final Fantasy IX animated cartoon. I don't know. I like 9 too much to be like, we'll just be.
Yeah, it's just one of those. I don't know. It's just.
Final Fantasy VII has had even a friggin' like 30-minute Last Order short. I mean, it went anime-fied, but at least
Final
Square
Fantasy
Enix did that.
Final Fantasy VII will be everlasting because nostalgia sells.
That's true.
Like, Final Fantasy VII is not going anywhere.
It's also amazing, and I love it. And so don't
Like,
knock me off my Final Fantasy VII loving hill.
That's fine. I'm not gonna buy into.
You will be supportively disagreeing.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, exactly.
Support my decision on my thing, but disagree with it.
Oh yeah, no. And that's the thing. Like, it's great that other people are like so excited about this because that means I still get to live the experience through y'all. But I'm not spending my money to support something that I'm like the decision making I'm morally against. Like, I think that they are taking advantage of they're taking advantage of the people that love their games. So
yeah,
I don't know. TN, no. TN, bad TN, no, don't do that.
Oh my goodness.
TN is
bound and determined to keep you in the Final Fantasy VII franchise.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, fast friend, you were hilarious. But so we've talked about Crisis Core, we talked about the Final Fantasy IX potential remake, we talked about Dragon Quest III remake. Do you want to talk a little bit like besides Forspoken? Any of the other? So I feel like we didn't get a whole lot for Star Ocean and Valkyrie Profile, and that's why for Valkyrie Profile I'm just kind of okay. It's being developed, but where are we going? Star Ocean, we've got it's kind of showed some character art. It's kind of showed some stuff. Not fully knowing if it's a prequel or sequel. It would be really interesting if they did a sequel without any spoilers because KJ hasn't played it yet. It'll be really interesting if it was a sequel till the end of time. I think that would be kind of neat. But like, it's doing the even numbers having blonde main characters and the odd numbers having blue-haired main character. On the exception of 2, where it did both.
I was gonna say 2 did not actually do that. Yeah. 2 did both.
It did do both, which I thought was really, really intriguing and stuff. But then they just was like followed with Edge being blonde in 4, and so they have that with 6. So like, I'm interested in it because for the majority of the Star Ocean series, it has been good. I still have 3 games that were amazing. I love them. And then 4 was starting to dip a little bit, but like I still enjoyed it. I just didn't get into the main character as much as I did in the other ones. And then I don't talk about 5. So okay. So it still has the potential there. Where Valkyrie Profile hasn't really been let down yet. Because 1 and 2 are still 1 is a phenomenal game and 2 is still really, really good. So I'm concerned because they haven't had like besides the little off games. I know there's a DS game. I think there was a mobile game too that didn't do well. They didn't do well. Little ones that kind of offshooted games and stuff like that. I don't really count. But I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued on that one. But
the Star Ocean games, I'm like, I guess my backlog dictates this though. My backlog makes me think of like games as what is this game like? What have they done for me lately? Because I'm not sold on the new Star Ocean. I'm just not. Like, I've heard bad things about 4 and 5. And I've heard mixed opinions on 4 and bad things about 5. So I'm just like, I'm gonna wait on this. That is definitely something I'm gonna wait on.
I'm hoping they come back around, but
yeah, well, I mean, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I think it'll be interesting to see what they do. Till the End of Time is the 3rd one. So after Till the End of Time is where I've heard that they start to kind of tail off.
They do start to flip it.
I'm also, and the other thing about it is, I think they had something great with Star Ocean 1 and 2, and then I feel like the the rest of the games kind of were different. So I don't know. We'll see what happens there. But I don't know.
It's hard. It's hard because I feel like if they're gonna drop the ball on titles, it's gonna be those two, which is gonna be sad. Because I don't even think they would drop it on a new IP, because a new IP is potential of a new series.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
So I think Forspoken's gonna be really, really good. But yeah, I'm just worried those are the two that are gonna drop, because if Valkyrie Profile doesn't do well, okay, the series is just kind of over. And then it's Star Ocean, if they drop another one, that's gonna like take a lot of us that are still supporting the series. So like,
yeah,
it's a lot more pressure, but a lot less of the higher tier games that they're pushing. Like they're pushing the Final Fantasy VII, they're pushing 16, they're pushing the new IPs, they're pushing Dragon Quest. So like, it's a lot more of a lot more pressure, and I feel like it's going to be less given the time and the support for, so it's a little bit concerning.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and I agree with Brian. Like, I still believe the second game is the best, and it's frustrating for me that it's still not on PSN. It's on PSN in Japan, but not in, like, they have all the Star Ocean games available on PSN except for 2.
I think I have an unpopular opinion here. I think I like First Departure more than Second Story.
Interesting.
I think I like First Departure more than Second Story.
Is it because you didn't do any of the private actions in Star Ocean 2, so you didn't get any of these good characters?
Maybe
Whereas
it's because I played First Departure off stream and I played Second Story on stream.
Oh, maybe. If you were playing it off stream, I would have suggested do private actions. Like, that's the only thing I would.
It's probably because I did do the private actions when I played off stream, but because I didn't play on stream, like, don't get me wrong, I liked both games a lot, but yeah, it's probably because of the fact that, like, okay, y'all are wildin', hold on. It's probably because of the fact that, like, I was in a spot where I didn't do the private actions and all of that stuff. So I had when I say I liked it more, I had a better experience with Star Ocean 1 than I did Star Ocean 2.
And, the fact that you got to play the First Departure, where they readjusted it to be more like Star Ocean 2, I can kind of see it, just because Star Ocean 1, the characters are a little bit more streamlined. There's a few ones that you'll miss if you don't, like, look it up, or you don't do, like, private action-y thingies and stuff like that. But a lot of them are a little bit more obtainable, and you don't end up with a party you can't where you struggle with. Whereas I didn't realize how heavy Star Ocean 2 relied on the private actions and the additional characters you get through that watching KJ do his first playthrough experience and seeing the characters he ended up with and the struggle the end of the game posed for him, especially the end boss, I was just kind of like, wow, this is kind of mind-blowing, because ever since I started Star Ocean 2, I always had a strategy guide, because that's what my brother got the game and a strategy guide for Christmas or his birthday or whatever. So I always had access to know what to do. But when you're just going through and you're like, oh, private actions, I don't want to do that. I'm just going to continue on with the story. I don't want to do side quests. Let's just go. And I'm going, I never thought of how crucial that is in the Star Ocean.
Which is like, if 2. And that goes...
But 1 and 3 don't have that. So 3, like, 1, you will get good characters just kind of going through, and they'll just end up with you, kind of thing, and you don't have to rely on that. And Star Ocean, without spoiling 3, is a very similar thing. So it'll be very interesting that I wonder if you'll either, like, stay on the hill of the pixel style of 1, or if you'll switch to Till the End of Time as being
I mean, yeah, I really liked 1. And so the thing about 1 is also, even though they give you like the best characters in the game, they don't necessarily like hold your hand towards that. And so one thing I will say, playing, and maybe I would feel different if I played Second Evolution versus Second Story. I also ran into bugs in Second Story, and Polly, I showed you, like, there were times where I was leveling skills up, and they were like, it was like, oh, from level 2 to level 3, or level 3 to 4 was like one amount, and then 4 to 5 was like a massive amount, and then I would upgrade it, and then it would be back down. And it was like, this is, like, it's supposed to progress. As you progress up the skill tree, things are supposed to be more expensive. So, I think if I played Second Evolution, I might feel differently. Because I think they fixed a lot of those things. Because that was actually one of my biggest problems.
And if you would have done some of the private actions to get something, because Brian's mentioning a character, like hinting to a character right now, that I'm like, yes, if you would have actually got that character, I think you would have been like, holy crap, I love this thing, I love these things, and love these little interactions and stuff like that. So yeah, if you play Second Evolution, that was my tip to you. Literally all I said was private action.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing, like, I didn't do all of the private actions, because once I got to a certain point in 1, I knew what my team was going to be, and I was like, I'm not recruiting, I don't care to recruit any more characters anyway, like, I don't need to. I have my healer, I have my 2 damage dealers, I have, like, my character that's using magic, whatever.
Star Ocean
like,
kind of gave you what you needed, whereas Star Ocean 2, it's like you needed to do the side stuff in order to get what you needed, which is not as like straight line. And again, watching your playthroughs, when I realized that is an actual real direction of this game that you could go, and I'm like, okay. And then watching you poorly suffer like 12 hours on the same boss,
that was
10 hours
trouble.
or something like that. That was brutal to watch, because I never experienced that, because I never missed, like, I was always deliberately trying to get different characters and stuff like that, so I never missed that. So I'm just like, wow, this game's brutal when you don't, like, when you A, don't have a strategy guide, and B, are like doing the private action thing. I didn't realize how heavy they pushed you into that, because it's that was their different feature, right? And Star Ocean 1, it was almost like they took what Star Ocean 2 they needed to make them connected in terms of like look and the crafting system and all that stuff that was really good in Star Ocean 2, because the original Star Ocean 1, I don't believe, had that. It was a more like streamlined game where like you will miss out on a few characters and a few interesting plot points, but you're not getting a I'm screwed party.
Honestly, the only thing that is actually a problem with the character layout there is the fact that in Star Ocean 1, you get I only got 7 characters in both games. But if you compare the 7 characters that I got in Star Ocean 1 to the 7 characters I got in Star Ocean 2, Peach brought it up.
You had so
vastly different. Vastly different in the sense that in Star Ocean 1, I had like 3 magic-based characters and 4 melee characters. So it was fine. But Star Ocean 2, I had 2 melee characters and the rest were mages. And that
I didn't even think about Rena's route probably would have been better for you.
Rena's route would have been better because at least I would have been guaranteed to
2 damage users that would have made that end boss less of a struggle, even with whatever else you got in the end and stumbled across. Yeah, I didn't realize how much like Rena's route would have been way more beneficial that way, as opposed to Claude's route. And I did, again, these are things that I think of now that I watched your first playthrough, that I've corrected my suggestions to people when I'm talking to them. Like when I say first playthrough experience, and if you're not going to if you're not going to use a strategy guide, you're not going to do any of those things, definitely Rena as a first playthrough experience.
I agree. Because at least you get 2 of the, like, you get the best 2 melee characters, if I'm not mistaken. Right?
Yeah, well, yeah. I find the one you get with Rena and the one that you could get through the side quest, they're very, very on par.
Yeah.
But both of them are phenomenal. And so like they give you that extra damage booster that you need somebody to be with you. And yeah, like I would say Rena route if you're going for first playthrough experience and you don't want to have like side quests or anything like that. Yeah, I didn't. Now I've corrected it, but I feel kind of bad for KJ because I think that's partly also Star Ocean 1. You're right, looks a little more appealing that way because both are phenomenal plot lines and characters and stuff. So like, where do you draw the line? And it's like, because it was a little bit more streamlined of like, you were guaranteed just going in the direction you needed to plot wise of getting several damage characters, of getting at least a mage, if not two, and like, if not three, that you could kind of just stumble across as you go, and you weren't heavily relied on doing the side quest stuff to do it.
Yeah, no, I ended up with, I think I think there's 6 characters you always get in Star Ocean, because I think you always get Roddick, you always get Millie, you always get the captain guy, and the other, I can't, names are escaping me.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
I think I got Sias myself. Like, that was a decision I made. Mavell joins the party. And then I got the guy with the wings. I cannot remember. Names are escaping me. Yes. So, yeah, those 7, but, like, I think 2 of them, or I think there's 5 of them were, like, guaranteed. And there's a, like, you get one of 3 characters at the beginning, right? So it's like, I got... And then I think there's also some, like, other plot line where if you recruit a certain person, then you can get Roddick's best weapon, but it ends up being a case where then there's a side quest you can go down where Mavell actually becomes a different...
Yeah. So you get more plot like with like that side questy bit, but it's not something that's the thing. You can also in that game, if you power level, you can even get Millie and stuff like that like sooner too in the game than what you did. So like there's little aspects like that like even if you were just like I want to just go get freaking Millie back and you're like okay, and you just cruise through that, you're still gonna be with 2 to 3 damage people and at least 1 mage. So yeah, going through that experience, I'm like, oh shit, yeah, Star Ocean 1 did do it more non-side quest friendly. Like you don't have to rely on the side quests or anything like that to get a decent party.
Even side stuff, it's like I did some of the side stuff in Star Ocean 1 and it wasn't like, I don't know. I felt like it didn't, I didn't feel like it was required, right? Like because I did a lot of crafting and stuff in Star Ocean 1. And it helped, but yeah, I don't know. Star Ocean 2, because I played it on stream, like I didn't do a lot of the private actions and stuff like that. So I just kind of missed out because of that.
You forgo those for the stream experience because you felt like the funny thing is that some of those would have been really hilarious to watch, but at the same time you figured, oh, I'll just go through the game, which is totally like, and again, it was one of those scenarios was like, oh shit. So now I get why you like the first one better. I do get it, and like because it also has everything the second one has: good characters, music. It has the crafting system that I really like, the skill system, all these things that it took from 2 that did really well, and then put it in the First Departure, aka the remake of the first one. And so you still got that experience, but you had a more streamlined experience, which now I get it, and it'll be really interesting when you play the third one if your opinion changes or not.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I don't know when I'm going to play that. It's going to be a bit. I mean, I think I'm definitely staying away from Star Ocean games for a little bit. I mean, Valkyrie Profile is going to be fun. I'll probably be playing it's looking like either Chrono Cross or Xenogears after that. So yeah, we'll definitely see what happens there. And then at some point, Champ, eventually I will be playing Suikoden 3 as well. Because I did put that on hold. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see with Star Ocean 3. I think I'll end up playing that on stream.
I think you should. It's a bit of a longer game than 1 and 2. Yeah.
I've heard it's probably like 65
It's a lot of fun to watch, and I think it'd be a good stream game. Um,
Okay, cool.
but yeah. So and then with Valkyrie Profile, I mean, like I really literally have no opinion of what Square Enix has announced because there wasn't much to it, and we got a little bit of it like an intro thingy, and then also, I'm very excited that you're going to be playing the first one on stream here coming up because I'm intrigued to see your opinion of it. I find with Valkyrie Profile, it's another kind of like Star Ocean experience where I find either people really like that it's unique and doing something different or they don't.
Hmm.
So it'll be really interesting. And it follows a little bit more mythology based and stuff like that too, which is intriguing.
Okay.
And Peach is like, then Banjo-Kazooie.
No, that is not happening. It'll be Valkyrie Profile, then the winner of the poll, then Suikoden in 3. That's going to be the plan. So I think I'm close to done with Shining Force 2. I think I'm close to done with that. So once I'm done with that, I'll be moving on to Valkyrie Profile. And yeah, I'm not sure. But there's some stuff that I'm like looking at, like Phantasy Star 4 and stuff like that I'm interested in, but those will be kind of down the line. I might add Phantasy Star 4 to my backlog. I'm not sure yet, but it's available in the Sega Genesis collection, so it's something that I'm thinking about.
Yeah, the only Phantasy Star game I ever played was online.
I also played. When did you play Phantasy Star Online?
Years ago.
I think there was one. Oh, what is it? Okay, hold on. I need to look. Because there was one. It might be. Oh, I don't think I played online. I think I played Phantasy Star Universe online. It was on the 360. It was like a demo, sort of, but not really.
No, the one I played was on the GameCube, Dreamcast. I played it on the Dreamcast.
Okay, yeah, I played the one that was like it was like free to play on the 360, and
okay,
it was a lot of fun. It was actually a lot of fun. It was weird, and you had to like. It was a lot of farming for like rare drops and stuff like that. I put more time into that game than I probably should have, but it was free, so it worked. And yeah, it was a good time. It was a really good time.
Yeah, there Phantasy Star Online, the one that I played for the Dreamcast, it came out like 2000. Which makes sense because I did play it in high school, so it's a long time ago.
Not that long ago.
But it was a lot of fun too. I've just never played the Phantasy Star series outside of that one game, so I have like no concept whatsoever on it. I've even seen very little of the Phantasy Star. I realize it's like a whole like there's a lot of people who love it and the series and everything like that. And like even the one that I played did really, really well. I just never played it.
It's actually really funny that we're talking about Phantasy Star. So Shane was actually playing Phantasy Star 4. That's actually how I sort of saw the game. I was like, oh, it would be interesting.
Shane played it. Let's go. Also, hi Shane.
Yeah, so yeah, Shane was talking about Phantasy Star 4. It's something I think I'm going to add to my backlog. It looks interesting, and it does have sort of like that front-facing battle system, but at least you see your character then attack. So it's like it's kind of like, it looks like Earthbound in the sense where like you have all the health meters on the bottom, you can't see your characters, but then when they're attacking, you actually see them attack the thing. That's all I want. Like that's all I want. So yeah, Phantasy Star 4 is probably something I'm going to dive into at some point.
Literally all Dragon Quest 3 could have done to appease to KJ was put it so that it was like the camera was behind the character.
Yep. If they would have kept that, like it looked like Golden Sun. I was so excited. I was so excited.
But
yeah. Oh, okay. I did have another question. For you. We can get back on the Square topic. What is a Square title that you would like to see them revive?
Oh,
because a lot of people have been. I asked this because a bunch of people have mentioned Parasite Eve in chat. So I'm very curious what your opinion on that would be.
Yeah, there's a few that I would like them to breathe like really, really good life into. But Parasite Eve is a really good one just because it was very different from what they usually did, and they kind of mixing like more the dark and the RPG experience together. And it, like, I haven't played all the way through Parasite Eve 1 and 2, but it's very different. Which would be really, really cool for Square to kind of like show, like to kind of revitalize and do. But I'd also be worried because it's so different. Maybe the revitalization wouldn't do very well. I mean, some of them I just wouldn't want them to touch, like Illusion of Gaia and the three of those, like the Tyranenigma and the Soul Blazer. I wouldn't want them to touch those. Like, I feel like. I don't know. I think they're good. Just at least the Illusion of Gaia that I played. I really want to play the other two now because of playing it. I really enjoyed it. It was really cute, and I feel like, wow, maybe if they did that with like Octopath Traveler graphics, I would be intrigued by it. But otherwise, I'm just kind of like, that's good.
I'm like scrolling through titles trying to figure out exactly what I would want because like. I'm not sure. Like, it would probably be a newer title for me. Probably.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many titles and stuff like that like have started to get a little bit of attention. Like, I would have before Chrono Cross got the remaster, I would have said Chrono Cross because I feel like they kind of constantly overlook it. And jump over it because Chrono Trigger is so like held in such high regard that and then Chrono Cross is so different from Chrono Trigger, so it's always got that going for it. So I would have said Chrono Cross, but then they brought a remaster and they breathed life a little bit back into it, and it's been such a joy to be experiencing that again, and like all that sort of feelings and stuff. A lot of their stuff they're doing that, like Secret of Mana would have been another one I said, but they already did a remake of it. Now I haven't gotten to play it yet, but Secret of Mana was such a great Super Nintendo game that I love Secret of Mana.
That's another series I never really got to. I've like dabbled in some of those games, but I don't know where to start with those Mana games.
I think you might actually like Legend of Mana. I think that might be the one to start with.
The one I played the most of was Sword of Mana because it was on the GBA, and I always saw the box and was like super excited about it. And
I've never played Sword of Mana, so I can't.
It's a remake of the first one, I believe.
But yeah. You mean the remake of the Secret of Mana?
It's a remake of the first Mana game. Sword of Mana, I'm pretty sure, is a remake of the first Mana game.
Oh.
Yeah. Just on the GBA.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's I didn't know that game existed. Okay, well, yeah, that style and stuff, or Legend of Mana, because Legend of Mana like had a really, really good it had a very unique style. It had a really good like music and stuff like that, but like I would say Secret of Mana, but Secret of Mana is also a little bit more like action adventure-y, kind of like Illusion of Gaia was, except for like you're switching between three characters, and you didn't seem super thrilled about that. So like I think maybe Legend of Mana might be the one I would think, or Sword of Mana. That looks good too, actually. That I look at it, I haven't played it myself, so I can't experience it, but it's gotten really, really good reviews and from the community. So I mean, like that might be a good one to start with too, since it's a remake of the first one.
Yeah, that's the one I might play. It was really, I tried to play it, and it was really wordy. It was really wordy in the beginning, and I was just like, it's funny. I actually tried to play it when you guys were here, and it was really wordy, and then I was like, I'm gonna play Triangle Strategy instead. Makes no sense. It's funny.
Yeah, no, Shane just corrected me. It's because it was the original Mana game was called Final Fantasy Adventure.
Right.
I forgot that.
Right.
That's what it called it originally, and then they turned it into its own series and stuff like that. I remember they did that. They kept calling things like Final Fantasy, but they weren't. Like Saga Frontier, I think had that same treatment. because there was like Saga Frontier was originally like that series was originally called Final Fantasy something or other, and so yeah, so that's why I don't remember the first one. I always think of Secret of Mana as the first one, but no, it would have had a different title.
I actually
Secret of Mana, Legend of Mana, or it sounds like Sword of Mana would be Final Fantasy Legend. That's what it was. Thank you, Shane. Yeah, Saga Frontier 1 to 3 were like Final Fantasy Legend.
Yep.
And it was just so confusing that they kept naming things Final Fantasy back in the day, and but they were different, like story, like they were different. Like they weren't even like within the Final Fantasy like idea. It was just very different. And so they made them their own things like Saga Frontier and Mana series and stuff like that. So
makes sense.
But yeah, I think I don't think like Secret of Mana. I love Secret of Mana. I promise you. It's just when I think of what like KJ likes to play, and he didn't seem super thrilled about how Illusion of Gaia's battle system and everything was.
Yeah, it didn't. Illusion of Gaia did not sit well with me. I don't know.
I would worry that would translate over to like Secret of Mana still being like that action-y RPG thing where you switch between the 3 characters. So I think maybe more like Legend of Mana would be a little bit more.
Okay.
But yeah, Sword of Mana looks interesting too. I haven't played it yet, but now I'm gonna put it on my list that I want.
Okay. My answer to this question. My answer to this question is kind of stretching here, because it's a game that Square didn't originally publish, but I'm stretching here a little bit, and it's actually going to be a good segue. So
okay.
My answer is Grandia, because Square did publish Grandia 3.
Oh, you're stretching that pretty good. Okay, you know what? They do have the right.
I'm stretching it. I had to look it up. I was like, and then I even went and got the game off my shelf. I was like, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, no, you're right. Square published Grandia 3. They didn't make it.
Exactly. So
yeah,
I don't know where.
But they would have the rights to it. So you're right. They could.
They could. And so it's funny because like I've never beaten any of the Grandia games. I've like dabbled in them and they look like a lot of fun, but I've never actually beaten any of them, which is kind of the segue into what the sort of next episode is going to be. Next episode of the podcast is going to be, and like where we're going to take this.
That's perfect.
Yeah,
clever.
It was not intentional. This was not an intentional segue. It just happened. But I was like, wait a second. I'm pretty sure they own the rights to Grandia now.
They have the rights. Like the remaster was still done by somebody else, but I think they still have like they could do something with it.
Yeah.
Sort of idea. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So that would probably be something I would like to see if they were gonna continue on with a series. But otherwise, I mean, they're kind of doing something with Octopath, but it was like a mobile game. So I'd like to see more of like that, because I do think that studio just does, like, that part of Square just does such good work. I've never been disappointed by a game that they've touched so far. So I think that would be really, really interesting.
Yeah, and Take makes a good point of like, if we're not even talking about like trying to revitalize, but even just to like continue the series, I'd be really interested in another Chrono game and what they would do. Because they way back in the day they had they had trademarked Chrono Break. And we were all very like wondering what this was going to be, and then it dropped, and then it was never spoken of again. But it was always like that intriguing in the mind of being like, would they do a direct thing to Chrono Trigger? Would they do something like they did with Chrono Cross? Would they do a sequel to Chrono Cross or a prequel or whatever? Who knows? Our minds were just like, okay, another Chrono game in the series where it's like where they're connected, but they could still be played on their own. Would be very interesting to me. But I would also be incredibly worried, since they had dropped it once, that they would feel like they wouldn't be able to meet the expectations of both of those games, because despite a lot of people like maybe not being super in love with Chrono Cross, like its soundtrack is one of the best soundtracks in the
Chrono Cross
PS1
soundtrack
era.
is great. Yes, I can.
And like
100%
they
get on
had
board with
components to it that were great. Some things were just a miss. And I know a lot of people felt defeated about like the leveling system and stuff, but like it was still a game on its own that stood strong in other aspects than Chrono Trigger did, and hit differently than Chrono Trigger did. So I would be very intrigued to see a third one in that series done in a way like how Chrono Trigger and Chrono Cross are connected, but they're not, and you could play them on their own, and they have different strengths and stuff like that, and everything. It'd be very interesting. Like, Tank made a good point about that, because a lot of the stuff that they're remastering and remaking right now would have been my suggestions.
Okay.
My only other one is if they made Final Fantasy VI remade in the Octopath. Only if they did it with the Octopath. That's the only time I think. But they keep doing pixel remasters, so I don't think they'll ever touch that ever again. But like, if they did it in like the Octopath, if the Octopath Traveler team got a hold of that and then got to do like a Final Fantasy 4, 5, or 6, either, I wouldn't even be argumentative on the other two, and did like a remake where it was in that style, I would so play it, because that style is just beautiful for pixel games and perfect for like remasters and remakes of it.
I think it would be really cool if they did a remake, and this is gonna give you. I'm gonna give you. I mean, I guess we like, I alluded to it earlier, but you're gonna hear why my biggest critique of Final Fantasy VI. I would be okay with a Final Fantasy VI remake for the simple fact that they would have the opportunity to make 8 or 9 other characters in Final Fantasy VI actually be story relevant. There are so many characters in Final Fantasy VI. Oh yeah,
that would be perfect. And the Octopath Train would do that so well.
Their stories just aren't relevant to the actual story itself. You can play that game.
Tomorrow.
You can literally play that game with like, and one of the characters is only because you need his airship. Like, that's the only reason why you need Setzer. You could play that game with Locke, Celeste, Terra, and
or Sabin,
and kind of like, I don't know, him and Edgar, like, they kind of like you can make that case, and that's why I said like,
fix Edgar's behavior.
Oh god, no, just cancel Edgar, please, just cancel Edgar. So yeah, that's my biggest problem with 6 is like party splits, and the fact that, again, like, there are some great, like, don't get me wrong, Cyan's a great character, but his story isn't as story relevant. Neither.
Yeah, and there's a lot of characters like that where they're like they didn't get enough like story development. Like Umaro is one,
Gogo's one,
Gogo's another. Which Gogo's just got a really unique like skill set that like can mimic things. So you're always kind of wondering, like, they're literally shrouded in mystery, and it would have been fun if they played that up where they just had like these mysterious moments of Gogo. And like even like Shadow got a little bit more of like a little thing, but even like I feel like Realm and Strago and stuff like that, while they had a little bit, that could have been touched on way more and stuff like that. Like, so you're absolutely right. Gao,
Gao,
you could get a little bit more of him in terms of like doing like the Veld side thing. So you get a little bit more plotline with his sort of thing, but it still was kind of like these characters are really great and charming. Yeah. So if Octopath Traveler team took that on and remade it in the beautiful thing, and then gave those extra characters a little bit more of a story substance. I think that would be so beautiful. And then have just like remastered music of Nobuo Matsu's soundtrack, and like keeping the plot line the same and stuff, just giving those side characters more relevance into wanting to use them. Yeah, because you dive with that character, because that game's very much designed, you can literally have a party of anybody and still beat the game. So it would be really interesting if you could literally just pick the party like you jived with the most, not the ones where they were the only ones to get development.
Yeah, because I'm honestly, I played the game with what I felt were the three main characters, and then after that it was the character I thought was the coolest / had the most was
I used Go-Go all the time just because I was like, I love their mimic, and so I had like Sabin and Go-Go in like the same party.
Oh yeah, no.
And
for
they
me,
were just unstoppable.
For me,
it didn't
when
matter
I had
the other two characters.
When I had the option, it was Locke, Celeste, Terra, Shadow, and that was my team. Basically, as soon as I got Locke back, that was my team. The first thing I did when I got the airship, I was like, okay,
not thief, treasure hunter.
I was like, beeline for Shadow, and because everyone was like, oh, Shadow's easier to get, I was like, all right, cool, and I got everyone. But then I was just like, okay, it's time to go get Locke, and like this is my party.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's such an interesting. We argue 6 versus Chrono Trigger had developed everything so well. 6 had variety. Chrono Trigger couldn't beat. Who are these people? Yeah, it's really interesting, and I think there's a lot of back and forth between 6 and Chrono Trigger.
Yeah, and that's where I sit, is like Chrono Trigger felt more of a completed game with all storylines. You know what I mean? Every character had a full-on segment. Every character had a full-on backstory. I mean, a few people argue about Luca, but like she was incredibly important to Robo's side of things. And also she was just kind of like the best friend, smart and there with you kind of thing. So I was okay with like one character being a little less like plot driven than all the other ones.
Especially if they're pushing other characters.
Exactly. They were pushing everybody. So that was okay for me. And Chrono Trigger, that's why Chrono Trigger is my favorite game of all time, whereas Final Fantasy VI is my favorite Final Fantasy game. And it's just because Final Fantasy VI, while I love it to pieces, there was just little bits like that where they just didn't give me enough substance. It's the same reason I have an issue with Chrono Cross, and where they give you a whole whack of characters and they're not really like, they don't really have like story or relevancy, and you don't even really get them like talking or anything until you like have them in your party and stuff, which was a little frustrating. So like the main characters that I love in Chrono Cross are the ones that had the most story, like Glenn and Riddell and stuff like that. So there's a lot of characters that are just like funny or funny looking or whatever that you just go to get, right? So that's where I was disconnected a little bit with Final Fantasy VI. And I feel like Final Fantasy VI had the potential. It just, maybe it pushed already the Super Nintendo and it just didn't have any more room to go. So that's why I think a remake of that with the Octopath team doing it in that style, and then breathing a little bit more life into the characters they didn't get a chance to like really develop, and that way like you go through the game at that point having every character having like plotline and relevance and stuff like that. You feel for these characters, and then you get just to pick your favorite team and then go and beat the game kind of idea. That would be phenomenal. Like I would love to learn more about Go-Go. I would love more on Shadow. I'd love Realm and Strago to have a little bit more. Heck, I would even be laughing hard if they put Ultros in as an like a character briefly.
Of course you would.
While. Like
Polly would love
so
to play Final
that.
Fantasy VI through Ultros' eyes.
Oh my god, I would cry, but it would be hilarious.
Oh my
but
goodness.
like even if they did like a little segment like that of like Ultros or something like that, where because by the end like Ultros is just kind of like, I'm gonna run the Coliseum and just having fun and doing shit because that's what he is. And so like I'm like, even that where he just like joins your party briefly or just like be's an NPC for a little bit with you, or you get to fight with him in the Coliseum or something, that would be hilarious. But like it's so close. It's so close for me. It's just not quite. That's why Chrono Trigger ended up, because I played both of them really close. So like the nostalgia of them being my favorite game of all time was very close to each other.
Okay.
But Chrono Trigger just felt more of a complete package wrapped up in a bow handed to me. Character development, music, story, gameplay, everything was just phenomenal with it. So, and I understand a lot, like there's still people who are not huge fans of Chrono Trigger, and that's totally fine. But when I was a kid at the time for RPG games, there wasn't a whole lot to go with. And when I played Final Fantasy III, aka 6, I could see the little bits of that where I'm like, I don't care about Umaru. Why am I getting them? Like, I'm really like I'm getting them to have that completionist in me, but I'm like, I I've never used Umaro. I don't even know what its attacks are. I feel so bad about that. But like, I just didn't care, right? So whereas Chrono Trigger, there wasn't a character I didn't care about in the main storyline. There just wasn't. Like, I love Frog, I love Ayla, I love Robo, I love Luca, I love Merle, I love freaking Magus and all that sort of stuff. Like,
no.
My favorite character was even Shala, who's an NPC. So
Magus. I don't know about Magus. That is one.
Magus, I was kind of hoping would have just remained.
I've still yet to play a Chrono Trigger playthrough where I've used Magus. Magus is dead in my and
that's
I will
totally fair. That's the one area where I could see like people like argue with the characters that plot wise, him being defeated makes way more sense. Yeah. Plot wise, but so I can attest that if people don't like Magus, that's fine. I liked him because I just like his whole like backstory and everything like that, and I feel bad for him.
We are Team Frog.
Yeah, that's totally fine. If Frog has your heart, then Magus is automatically just out.
Yeah, we are Team Frog through and through. Magus, nope. Hard pass.
Where Shala had my heart, who's an NPC, but her sibling, yeah. So that's why I was a little bit more connected with that than with shutting up. But don't get me wrong, I still love Frog. Glenola, don't at me. I promise, I still love Frog. But Shala's technically my favorite character, so and she's not even a playable character, which is beautiful with Chrono Trigger. Like, they wrote their character so well that even the NPCs, I was like, oh, I just want to protect you, but you're protecting me, kind of idea. So, but yeah, Chrono, that Final Fantasy VI, I can absolutely admit that they needed a little bit more development with those characters. Just give me something to care about. Like, Umaro, I'm sorry. You were just Mog's friend, and I wanted Mog. So, and you were just there. You get Mog back in your party, and then Umaro is just literally there, and I'm like, okay, I might as well go do this.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much.
Glenola, that's not what I said. I love
Oh no. Please. Okay, yeah, so I think like I said, I definitely, it was a little bit of a stretch, but I think Grandia would be something that would be really interesting. Because again,
honestly, I'm excited to do the remaster, but yeah, you're right. The Grandia series is just really unique.
I've only dabbled in it. Very, very briefly. I played one for like, actually, I have a save data of one, but it's like super early on, so I'm just gonna go back. Yeah, so I'm gonna go back and like restart entirely because I don't remember anything.
Yeah, same. Like I'm gonna play the remaster of it. So, but to wrap up the Chrono Trigger thing, like Null Girl, Flea is also another side character that I freaking love. Like Flea, being like, they're like, are you girl or man? And they're like, I'm pretty and I'm boss. So like, let's just was one of the more progressive things in a game at the time that I was like, oh, kind of idea, right? It's like, while Go-Go was an illusion and they left that as a mystery whether you didn't know, they really played into Flea being like, I'm powerful, I'm beautiful, and it doesn't matter. Use whatever you want, kind of thing. And it's just, Flea just played into this so well, and I'm like, that was just such a great, like, the NPCs were great.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. Like, you don't get to see a lot of like NPCs get true development unless they're like villains or like they're like the main
and even back then we didn't really even get things that were like more like, you know, be different genders and things like that. So like, like maybe looking one way but being the other, right? So we didn't get that much representation, even like we still struggle. And so like now going back and like thinking of how like progressed that was, it was like, oh, okay. Like it's just little bonuses that I look at now in the eyes of a bi-queer woman that I go back to those and I'm going, wow, that was a very interesting thing they did, and they just slipped it in, like just
And
Just
I
a
feel
little
like
bit of
that's
this NPC.
common, right? Like there's always those subtle things where it's like, oh, I didn't really see that. Like, and now then you go back and you replay something and look, and it's just like, oh, okay, that's actually that. Wow, that's way beyond its time. So
Yeah, exactly, and that's what I really loved about that for Chrono Trigger specifically. But like, and then when we go into like the Grandia series and why you'd love to see that, Grandia series was really interesting. Like the first game was unique, the second one was really unique. The third one started to lose me, but it was still unique. Like all three games were different. I've heard Grandia 3 compared to with Skies of Arcadia, but I don't know if that's a fair
oh,
comparison.
don't tell me,
I've
Polly.
never...
Don't tell me that. I will load this up right now. Do
Yeah,
not
but
tell
I
me.
don't
I'm
think it's a
literally
fair
holding this game in
comparison.
my hands.
Skies of Arcadia is way more beloved. So I'm like, I don't see how that connected from what I've played of Grandia 3 and what I've known of Skies of Arcadia, because I haven't played Skies of Arcadia. I'm just like, I don't see it. But that's what somebody tried to sell me on like years ago, and I'm like, I haven't played Skies of Arcadia.
Skies of Arcadia. Oh my goodness. Okay. Again, like Skies of Arcadia is just your. Oh, it's so good. So just like playing.
Here comes a new challenger.
Playing through Skies of Arcadia and just like the world, like you're a sky pirate. Like it's so cool. Like you're on a ship, you're going to these different places, you're trying to save the world, and there's like some twists that you can kind of see coming, but kind of like some of it I'm just like, okay. The sky battles were really interesting, even though if you don't keep up with your ship, you kind of just get screwed. Skies of Arcadia was so much fun. And that is a game that does not care about you at all. They do not tell you much of anything. You have to find stuff yourself. Very, very little hints, very little breadcrumbs. Skies of Arcadia is, and I do recommend if anybody plays it, play the GameCube version, because the Dreamcast version is the encounter rates on the Dreamcast version are stuff of nightmares. But oh my goodness.
Is the GameCube version better?
The GameCube version definitely, they fixed that. But that was such a good. That's actually the second or third game I beat on stream. Third game I beat on stream, because I beat that after Final Fantasy. I beat that on after Final Fantasy 8. And yeah, it's such a fun game. Like Skies of Arcadia is great. Because the characters are so like, it's really easy to just like love the characters.
That's awesome.
Yeah, the main character in Skies of Arcadia, actually, he's one of my bit badges.
That's right. That's right, because you had a lot of like the main characters as your bit badges.
Yeah, Skies of Arcadia is a great game. But there's just some stuff they don't tell you. Like they don't tell you the one of the things one of my longtime viewers, he actually sent me the chart, because they don't tell you what elements are good against what, and it's just colors. So you don't actually know. You don't actually know what everything is. So every time I played Skies of Arcadia on one monitor, I just had the chart up so that I could basically like attack things with the appropriate elements, so that I would be fine.
Oh, okay.
Yo, Victorio, yes, hell yeah.
I need to play Skies of Arcadia, and you need to play Batten Kaitos.
I have Batten Kaitos. Yeah, I have it. I just haven't played it yet. But hearing Grandia 3 being compared to Skies of Arcadia makes me very excited.
Now that you described Skies of Arcadia, it's I think it's because the two characters are pilots, and that's where the line is drawn.
Oh no! Don't tell me just that. Oh no!
But like, I'd have to replay Grandia 3. It's been a while. I remember I had quit about halfway through the game. But Grandia 1 and 2 are definitely really solid.
I don't know, the cover
Grandia 2 being my favorite in the series. I love 2. The 2 just had this powerful story that just is one of my top in JRPG games for
I'm
story.
gonna stream that at some point. That's actually a game that I will be streaming.
The second one? Perfect.
The second one, yeah.
Because I'd love to watch that. But yeah, with that segment or whatever, starting, I guess, pretty well now.
Yeah.
KJ and I are going to be playing Grandia 1 off stream. And the reason for this is because basically 1 month from today, so July 24th, we are going to do our next podcast where we're going to be talking about Grandia 1. Our experiences through it, things that we like, things like we don't like. We're hopefully going to get some clips and stuff like that together that we can, like, when we're talking about a certain segment of the game, we can like show it. So there might be some we're going to be trying to beat it, so we're going to try to get as far as possible, if not beat the game, so that we could talk about it in its entirety. So it will be a little bit spoilers, but because we're announcing it now and it's a month later, you guys could go play Grandia 1 as well and talk about it with us.
Perfect.
See how far you get. See how far you get, or like
it'll be more like a video game book club. Like that's kind of what we're thinking about. And if there's how we'll do it is like if there's news and stuff that we want to cover, we will. But like we'll let y'all know ahead of time, like if that's going to be the case. But yeah, Grandia 1 is going to be the first thing. I think the next thing after that, like we'll try to get games that are like a little shorter next time. So
yeah, we're trying to make it so that we can beat it in a month, even with our schedules. Like we both stream, working and stuff like that. And KJ probably, let's just be real, you'll be returning to work at some point, whatever
in the
you
next
want
couple
to.
Months, yeah.
Yeah, and so that kind of segment and everything, we want to make sure and it's also balanced on your guys' schedule too, because you guys are probably working and stuff. So playing so we're gonna try to pick like the shorter like games that are more like RPG based, but in the shorter category that aren't like Witcher 3, which is gonna be like 200 hours.
Yeah, exactly.
Sort of idea, where we're just setting ourselves up to not be able to do it, but we're gonna try our best to like beat it. And or get as close as possible, and both have the understanding that if the other beats it, we might talk about the ending
exactly
during the podcast. But yeah, this is our plan.
Yes.
And then if there's like big things, we might talk about it, or maybe even just starting the segment off a little bit about talking about current RPG news or something like that, if there's big enough news. But yeah, going into going forward with the podcasts, we're gonna do a podcast book club for RPG games, and you'll definitely, if you've played Grandia 1, even better, because you could just like hang out with us and see what our opinions were firsthand.
Yeah, I don't remember anything about it. I only played like an hour. Of it, and I'm like, okay, we'll see what happens. I'm interested. I'll have to delete my save data and kind of go through and pick it back up. But I remember it being sort of very open and just like I had no idea where I was going or what I was supposed to be doing. So I'm excited to dive back into it, and it'll be a good like segue into the series officially. Because again, I've seen a bunch of Grandia. I've definitely seen Grandia 3. I've seen a bunch of Grandia 2 through other people. But I've never played. I only played like an hour of the first one. So
yeah, and basically our goal for these is not to do like everything in the game. We're trying to get through the game to beat it so that we could talk about it on the podcast. And so like doing all the side stuff, it might be a longer game, but doing like the like start to finish to get the completion and stuff like that, to beat it, that's what we're trying to use as the gauge for like which ones we're going to do. And we've got lots of ideas, so we're going to start with Grandia 1 because we're both interested in playing the game, me replaying it. I got to the end of disc 1.
Okay. Yeah,
so I have a few save files there where I was like literally switching to disc 2. So like I got a chunk in, but I don't remember. It's been years since I played it personally. So like at least a decade. So I don't remember anything. So it's going to be very interesting. How much pops into my brain being like, oh yeah. Or how much of it's like, what? What this game is? It's going to be interesting. Because games I haven't beaten, I don't retain the plot line of. It's weird.
That's
like when I do an RPG game, if I don't full on beat the game, for some reason, like I don't remember like there's even when I beat games, like there will be parts that I miss. So like replaying it, I'm like, oh yeah, these things, but I know the overall plot of it. If I didn't beat it, it's like I don't remember the plot.
No, I get that.
Like,
I can totally understand that.
Yeah, so like those core like beating the game moments and having all the plot come into completion, that's what stays in my brain. And then everything else will dissipate over time unless I'm replaying it over and over again. So
Okay.
like Illusion of Gaia, ask me what the second dungeon is and I can't tell you anymore. But ask me what that plot line is and I can tell you, and or tell you what the ending is. So like that's just, I don't know. That's just the way my brain works.
No,
and I
get
just
that.
recently did that.
I think for me, it's like, as long as I get through a good portion of the game, I'll remember it. So, like, Champ brought up Suikoden 3. I played, like, 10 hours of Suikoden 3, and I just... Again, it all escapes me. Like, it all escapes me.
You didn't play it enough. And maybe that's a key, too. It's like, maybe if I got to all the way to the ending, or close to the ending, I would remember most of it. But, like, Grandia 1, I only got to the end of disc 1, and I feel like there's still a lot of plot to go. I feel like I did that in like 10 or 15 hours or something, so it was a very long and yeah. But Grandia 2, I remember exactly what happens at the end of that game, and or chunks of what happens in that game, even though I beat it a decade ago. So it's strange with the RPG games that they're like stories, and it's the same with books for me. If I don't finish the book, I start to forget a lot of it. So then I have to like go back and reread the book and then actually finish it. The Maze Runner series is a good example. So I read all of the Maze Runner series, finished it, and then when I watched the movies, I was like, that's wrong.
Oh,
you know, all of a sudden I was just like, oh my God, the second movie is nothing like the second book. And because I had remembered it so well, even though I had watched them so far apart. But the Miss Peregrine's School for Peculiar Children, I didn't finish that series. I was on book 3. I can't tell you what was book 2 either. Even though I finished it, because it's all one big plot line and they all tie into each other. And if I tried to reread the third one, I'd have to go back to like the last bit of the second one and then read the third one into it. I don't know. It's just weird with my brain when it comes to storylines. I have to have it completed, or a good chunk of it completed, especially when it is a continuous story. So Final Fantasy 13, it was the same way. I played 13, and then I played 13 2 years later, and then Lightning Returns years later. And I was like, these games are very disconnected. What the heck? And then when I played them all in a row, I got it. I understood what they were trying to do, and I'm like, okay. But, like, I didn't remember the reasons why I thought it was so disconnected the last time. Because
you played them in order.
Yeah, and I played them with long gaps in between them. So,
that's for me.
We haven't done Xenoblade yet, but we both are interested in this.
I don't know if I will. I don't know if I will play Xenoblade. Xenoblade is not like, I watched Key play it, and like the gameplay for me didn't really do it. I wasn't a huge fan. So I'll probably watch people play Xenoblade. I probably won't play it. I also feel like it's common that Xenoblade is one of those games that people are like super excited to... They're like super excited to play, and then they get it, they play it for some amount of time, put it down, and then like they're like, oh yeah, Xenoblade's on my backlog, but they haven't played it in X number of weeks, months, etc. So
yeah, and that's why I never started Xenoblade Chronicles, is because I want to play and beat it. So that's probably going to be a stream game at some point.
Okay.
That's why it makes me beat it, because I have to beat it on stream. So that might be something I do there. But like, I'm curious at the series. It's also like, I really would love to play the 3 Xenosaga games, but they're so expensive, number 2 and 3, to get. I have one. I have Xenosaga 1. But Xenosaga 2, it's like, okay, that's affordable. Xenosaga 3, it's like you just choked on your water, price-wise. And I'm like, I don't know if I want to be into the series that much with that kind of price tag at the last game.
It's funny because Pilot Whisperer was playing Xenosaga 1 this morning. and I was hanging out his stream, and he said that
nice.
he has his copy of Xenosaga 3 has a $15 price tag on it.
Oh.
He bought that game for $15. That is now like a couple $100 game.
Yeah, it's like with me, the Shadow Hearts. My brother laughed at me because he said that I have the 1999 price sticker on Shadow Hearts Covenant, and that's like a 200, or Shadow Hearts the original one, and that's like a $200 USD game right now.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yep.
like it's crazy what you used to be able to get games, especially ones where it was like RPGs and stuff like that that not a lot of people heard of. So like you could find them at like pawn shops and things like that for very cheap. Way back when, but now people are getting wiser with the internet and figuring out what things are worth and like pricing them way higher, and you're just like, oh, dang it. But the Shadow Hearts series is entirely an expensive series. So 1, 2, and 3 is the cheaper of the three of them.
And then there's also
Koudelka is the most expensive of them all.
Yeah, Koudelka is like a $300 game.
I'm doomed on getting that strategy guide, or not strategy guide, manual for my copy. I think I'm just gonna give up on trying to get it.
You'll find it eventually. I said the same thing, and I've been able to find most of the things I'm looking for. So
yeah, I'm hoping I can find like the manual someday in like somebody's like box of like just random manuals and not have to pay a fortune for it.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed, yeah, because I didn't realize my copy didn't have the manual anymore, and I don't know where it happened to it. But yeah, Koudelka's the most expensive of it all. Then it's Shadow Hearts, which is around a $200, and then Covenant is around $150, and then till the third one, I think it's under $100 USD game. I can't remember, but yeah. The Shadow Hearts series with Koudelka as a whole is a very expensive series. But then it's also very similar to the .hack 4 games.
Oh, I can't wait to play those. I'm very excited.
Because you can get like 1, 2, and 3 for reasonably priced. And then 4 is like $400. Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, I'm excited to play the .hack series. I'll probably play those like in the Discord or something. But yeah, .hack series is going to be fun. The fourth .hack, yeah, Venters. Yeah. Quarantine is like a $300+ game. The rest of them,
I found it the cheapest I've ever seen it and bought it instantly for KJ because I was like, I had never seen it for that cheap recently. So I was like, nope, this one's mine.
Yeah, Quarantine is like 300. I think the other ones are like, the first one's like 20 or 30, the second one's like 30 or 40, the third one's like 60 or 70, and then Quarantine's like 350 ish.
Yeah, because they made a lot less copies of the last game. And so I make people choke about this, but I bought mine from my cousin for $25. Yeah,
wow.
I got a good deal on that because it had never been touched because he didn't play the other 3 games.
Oh my goodness. Hey, I mean,
so
that's
it was like, yeah, it was never touched. I was like, yeah, back like a decade ago. But now I'm like looking at that going, holy crap, I have like a mint copy of Quarantine with the anime DVD and everything, and this thing is worth like almost like $350 USD.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
Yeah, I'll definitely, when I have everything, I'll definitely play those for sure, because those are going to be fun. Those are going to be a lot of fun. Yeah. I remember playing the second one and not playing any of the other ones and just being so lost.
Yeah, that's going to be fun. Either if you stream it or even Discord. Which, speaking of Discord streams, KJ and I will also try to play a little Grandia 1 in our Discords as well. So you guys can see a little bit segments, because I'm going to be playing mine mostly at my computer so that I can record things. Just in case there's like little things I want to talk about during the podcast. I want to make sure that I record what I'm like talking about. So we'll have this layout, but it's going to be slightly different because we're going to have a third little screen that we could switch to, and when we're talking and showing clips and stuff like that, which is really cool.
Yeah, it'll be very, very exciting. Yeah. I don't know if I'll probably just stream it in your Discord when you're having Discord things. I don't know if I'm going to do a Discord night next week, but maybe.
Yeah.
So yeah, we can coordinate and we'll figure that out.
Yeah, one either Monday. I'm thinking of starting in a Monday.
Okay. Yeah, if you start on Monday, tomorrow. I could probably do that.
And then Friday night is Final Fantasy 14, so I'm gonna try to go back and forth, kind of thing.
Yeah, sounds good.
But yeah, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun.
Awesome. I think this. I'm excited. I think this went well. Any other like closing statements or anything? I think we can wrap up. I'll start looking for somebody to raid potentially.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you everybody for hanging out with us, listening to our tangents that went off in different directions. This is why we're going to be called Turnbased Tangents, because we do get on a little bit of a like side. Even though we were trying to focus on Square Enix specifically today, we did we did talk about a lot of non-Square Enix ones. But the next podcast is going to be July 24th, which is a Sunday. We're going to try to keep them on Sundays just because KJ and I both stream on Saturdays and or sometimes I like it's we're going to try to keep it away from my cons too, so that's why we're doing the 24th. And so and we're going to try to keep it towards the end of the month. If it's not the last weekend in a month, it's going to be like the second last weekend, which is exactly what it does in July. To give us like a month worth of time to actually beat it. We might even try a couple of like there's for example, there's a Code Vein, which is a co-op RPG game. Things like that. We might even try to do that together off stream as well and make that part of a podcast. But for now, we'll stream. We might stream little bits and pieces of it in the Discord. But yeah, this was a lot of fun. I'm glad nobody canceled KJ for his opinions.
I am too. There's still time, I guess.
You guys have all been phenomenal. Thank you. Like, we've been reading your messages, but because it's a podcast, we're trying to keep the flow going and like every now and then throw in what you're saying into the mix of things. But we appreciate everybody being here. Thank you to the compliments of the cute little overlay that I threw together. I appreciate that little pixel art because we're both fan of the pixel looks. So, but yeah,
yo, Snowmans, chill. I am not afraid to express my hot takes. Okay, so I guess my question now is, so we're gonna raid somebody. Do we raid somebody playing Final Fantasy VII? Do we raid somebody playing a Final Fantasy game in general, or do we raid somebody playing a Square Enix game? Because I think that, like, I have some people playing, I don't have anybody playing 7, but I have people playing Final Fantasy in general. I have people playing some Square games.
Peach. Yeah, I have somebody playing specifically 7.
Oh, you do?
But if we want to do like a Square Enix one, that would work too. I think would be really, really cool. Or
if you have somebody playing 7, is it a first playthrough?
No.
Okay.
No, I think it's I think they're doing like the Final Fantasy VII mod that's like fully voice acted.
Oh,
I think they're playing the community one. I've seen TN play this one before.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So like not like Final Fantasy VII, but like a mod version of it. But I only have one who's doing that. Everything else on my list is like other Square games, but not.
Yeah, I see a bunch of Kingdom Hearts. I see somebody playing Final Fantasy 4. I see somebody playing Final Fantasy 6. It seems like they're at the end of 6. Yeah, totally up to y'all. I don't mind any
okay, so
anyway.
Since me and KJ are being very indecisive because we've been talking for like chat, let's let chat decide. So do we go to a Final Fantasy VII mod? Do we go to another Final Fantasy game, or do we go to just a generalized Square Enix game? What do you guys think? Do we want to do a little poll? Yes, says Sharukin. That's not helpful.
Yeah, if somebody wants to start a poll. Or Polly, if you want to start a poll. General? All right. Yeah, Peach is anti-Final Fantasy, so she's going to want to go to a general.
Okay, let's go to... Where do we raid? FF7... Oh, it would help if I could spell. modded version. And I'm sure we could pick just one of the generalized.
Yeah, definitely.
General.
Yeah, there's somebody, I think there's somebody that someone in the chat recommended to me a while back that is playing Final Fantasy VI. So that would be, if we go to like a Final Fantasy game, then that isn't
perfect.
7, I would say let's go there. But
okay, perfect.
Yeah, where do we raid?
All right, we got the poll up. For you guys chat, you determine whether we go to a Final Fantasy VII playthrough of a modded version of Final Fantasy VII, or we go to a random Final Fantasy game, since KJ already has one of mine there, or we go to a random Square Enix game. Since we were talking about all of these topics today.
Okay, I'm gonna start looking for a random Square game, because that's what it's looking like it's gonna be. I wonder if can I just search Square Enix on Twitch? Hopefully. Oh no, that's the Square Enix channel. That's not what I was looking for.
Yep.
Dragon Quest VIII? I can look for that. Yeah,
there's a poll. Yep, there's a poll. Yep. Yep. I just posted the poll. So.
Yeah, for the podcast, we're doing like no. We'll still have like general alert stuff, but not like things that are going to be
so that it doesn't interrupt things. That's why we didn't have the raid thing either, because it takes KJ to a different scene.
Mm-hmm. There's somebody playing Dragon Quest VIII. It looks like they're doing like a interactive thing. It's kind of interesting.
Ooh, interesting. Okay, so we have a target in mind for each of the 3 things, I think. So
I don't,
because the FF7 modded one is somebody you don't know, but I know.
Oh, true.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I don't know.
Another RPG streamer.
Brave Fencer Musashi. I can look at Brave Fencer Musashi as well.
Yeah, to see if somebody's actually playing it.
Yeah.
It's crazy to see, like, when I'm doing Golden Sun, there's, like, me.
Yep.
And, like, often there's sometimes one other person, but generally it's just me.
It's usually... Okay, so it's, like, speedrunners and people playing the game. Somebody's playing the game blindfolded. Those are the 2 people playing Brave Fencer Musashi.
Somebody's doing it blindfolded?
Yep.
Okay, that's funny.
That's
pro gamer skills right there that Polly does not have. I don't think I could ever do a game blindfolded.
Huh. That is impressive. That is very impressive. Okay, DQ.
Yeah, people are able to do that. That's freaking impressive for sure.
Let me see.
But yeah.
I'm trying to find...
But yeah, we've appreciated everybody, like, hanging out with us. This has been a lot of fun.
Okay, random Square game. So that's what it's looking
all
like.
right. Random Square game. So... I have somebody playing Kingdom Hearts 2 that I don't think you've... I don't think that's on your list, actually.
Okay. I'm poking around Star Ocean to see if there's anybody playing Star Ocean.
Ooh, yeah, Star Ocean would be really cool if we could get somebody with Star Ocean. Let's see. Even just like the first departure, or
yeah, nobody playing First Departure. Somebody playing Second Story, but it's in Japanese. That's gonna be a little bit of a struggle.
Yeah.
Nobody playing The Last Hope. Nobody playing Till the End of Time. Nobody playing First Departure.
What are the other? Oh, we could do like see if somebody's playing Chrono Trigger.
Yeah, that would work too. That's probably a better call.
Oh, it looks like there's a few people. I think. Hang on. Why is that not coming up? Oh, maybe there's nobody playing it right now.
Chrono Trigger? No, I see a couple people playing Chrono Trigger.
Oh, why is it not giving me the category? Oh, there we go. Jeez.
Yeah, it was weird. It was definitely weird.
All right. Yeah, there's a few people playing Chrono Trigger.
Grab 6 Square Enix games and roll a d6. I kind of like that idea.
Oh, yeah, we could do that.
I don't have a D6 handy.
Do I have?
I'd have to go find one.
I'm just seeing if I have a dice handy. Yes, I do. I actually have a dice really close by. One sec.
Okay. Yeah, we did not prepare for this at all. Spin the wheel of Square Enix, yeah, right?
I has the dice.
Okay, so let's say...
Let me put my headphones on so I can hear.
Yeah, of course.
All right. Okay.
Let's say trigger, cross, DQ8. I don't know. What other games? What other Square games did we say?
So Trigger, Cross, DQ8, Kingdom Hearts.
Kingdom Hearts, yeah.
We didn't talk too much about it, but that is
we
a
didn't.
Square
No,
game.
we didn't.
We need two more.
Yeah, we do.
Maybe a random Final Fantasy game.
Yeah, that's fine. Random Final Fantasy game for 5, and then 6.
6 will be. We go do that Musashi speed run.
Yeah, that works. That works for me. That works for me.
All right, let's do that. Okay.
Okay,
right,
roll the dice, Polly.
It is 4.
4?
Yeah.
So Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going Kingdom Hearts. Trying to think of somebody that's playing Kingdom Hearts I have not rated in a bit, if I have anybody. I don't know if you have anybody that's playing Kingdom Hearts, or we can find a random person. I'm cool with a random person or somebody we know.
It's somebody I know, but I don't think you know.
Sure, let's do it.
Be somebody new, different for you. Frank is a dark boy.
Okay, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Let
can you DM me the username?
Yeah.
Cool.
I'm doing it right now.
I think I've seen them in your chat a few times.
Yep, they've been in my chat a couple times. Yeah.
Cool.
They've rated me, so.
Awesome. I'm all for returning.
And they're doing a first playthrough, so which is kind of exciting. Yeah.
Okay. They do have follower only chat. That is the one follower or subscriber only chat. Let me.
Oh, do they? I didn't even notice.
Yeah,
that.
I got notified. Is that going to change things?
Ooh. Yeah, I didn't even know that. Oops.
Hold on a second. Oh.
They usually don't. So it might have been in a situation.
Oh, did they have like something happen? Maybe.
Maybe, yeah. Because I don't think they had follower only, but I could be wrong.
Okay.
They're really cool. I think people would think, but like, yeah, if we want to do a different, like,
I was gonna say it might be a little bit of a like. I don't want to.
Yeah. There's also Tiny who's doing, or we could just find somebody. Let's look at the Kingdom Hearts category.
Yeah, sure. Let's look at Kingdom Hearts. Let's see.
Yeah, let's do the 1.5. Oh, there's lots of people in here.
Yeah, a lot of people are probably in that category. Yeah, if we're rating somebody new, because it's funny, we know the two people that are at the top of the category.
Yeah, I know. That's exactly what I was thinking.
We know the people at the top of the category.
Oh, there's somebody that is Cartesian Cat, and her about me is variety streamer who loves JRPGs and Nintendo franchises.
Oh, cool. All right, let's do it. She's also almost at 1,000 followers. I think that's perfect.
Oh yeah, she is almost literally at
almost at 1,000 followers. Yeah,
and English, and yeah,
perfect.
Like,
there we go.
There we go. And it doesn't look like there's follower only, so that's good.
Okay.
Yeah, first playthrough, no spoilers, backseating allowed. All right, perfect.
Awesome. All right, let's do it.
Okay.
Awesome.
Sounds
all right.
good.
Well, thank you everybody for sticking around as we were trying to figure all that out. Really, really appreciate it. This has been.
We'll have a better
phenomenal.
idea next time because we'll have Grandia 1, so we'll just raid somebody playing.
Yes, we will raid somebody playing Grandia. Exactly. Okay, so everybody, y'all know what to do. If you have the emotes, please feel free to drop those. Drop the first message. If you don't, drop the second one, or drop whatever emotes you have to show all the love. really, really want to thank Polly for being here and doing this podcast, as well as all of y'all for coming through. So this has been great. Very, very excited.
Super fun. Thank you for hanging out with us, and thank you, KJ, for agreeing to do this with me.
Of course.
I'm super stoked. We get to talk about games once a month.
Exactly. It's great.
Hang out with all of you, so it's gonna be amazing.
Awesome. All right, everybody.
All right.
I'm gonna kick off the raid. So let's do this. Have a good one, everybody. Peace.
Bye.